2, 1. Yo, what is good, everybody? It's your boy Sports PSP. Welcome to another episode of the Sports PSP podcast. Hope everyone is enjoying a fantastic Friday. Hope everyone's having hope everyone had a great day coming off work, school, whatever the case may be. Got my panel in the building. BRF, how you doing, brother?
Can't complain. What can I say? Another week going by, another quality week, another week being above ground. I say, hey, any day is above ground is a good day. That's how I try to live. That's how I always try to be. Always a pleasure sharing the Friday night stage with my brothers in sport and with my brothers in sports arms, as I kind of want to say now. So I'm just ready to get to it and have fun like only we can.
And of course, we can't do the show without my guy, Undisputed World Champ. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. Good to be on the highlight of Friday nights with my boy from Georgia, from Madison, Georgia, BRF, DSGB, and the New Jersey genius himself. Shout out to New Jersey, man. Hey, and before we get started, man, prayers and condolences to anybody who was affected by the earthquake up there in New Jersey. I know we had to talk about it earlier, so all the people in New Jersey, in the areas where it was affected. I know it wasn't a high earthquake, but that is still nothing to be played with. So thoughts and prayers to them, and thoughts and prayers to the people in Tennessee that were affected by the tragedy. If you know what I'm talking about, then you know what I'm talking about. We're not going to say what happened on the show, but prayers to Nashville and prayers to New Jersey. We love you guys, and this show is for you. Stay tuned, and we love you.
Yes, and also prayers and condolences go to those in California with the fires. So I want to make sure everyone is hearts and condolences, man. Before we start the show, I think it's important that we should have a moment of silence real quick. So thank you. All right, fellas, let's talk about Monday night. What happened in the national championship game? Ohio State won the national championship. I mean, 10 years ago, with the new college format, they won the national championship with Cardale Jones, Ezekiel Elliott, Urban Meyer. And now, Ryan Day, after talks about can't win the big one, can't beat Michigan, now he finally has a ring to his resume. It to me, it almost looked like Ohio State was about to blow them out before Notre Dame tried to come back into that game. Jeremiah Smith, man, if he were not a freshman, he would easily be a top 5 pick in the NFL draft. And there would be a bunch of teams that would love to have him at the wide receiver spot, man. Will Howard played well. He did miss Jeremiah Smith on that deep ball to put the lead up to, I think, 35-27. But overall, you got to give a lot of credit to Ohio State, and they've been dominant in the college football playoffs. I think to me, what changed the momentum for them was that loss to Michigan. Was the loss to Michigan at Ohio State. And I think with Ryan Day, he heard enough. And look, shout outs to Ryan Day, shout outs to Ohio State. I mean, they played well. They deserve to be in the position that they are in. And it also goes to show you, unfortunately, BRF and Champ, because y'all Georgia, SEC, it seems to me that the days of the SEC being on top and winning the national championship are apparently over. Because the past 2 times, the Big Ten, you look at Michigan last year, and now you look at Ohio State. So is there a thing of things to see to come for the Big Ten being now the new dominant team? Could the SEC can do something about it? Only time will tell. But big ups to Ohio State for the win. Shout outs to Ryan Day. As for Marcus Freeman, look, for those who want to say it was a fluke, no. Notre Dame had a hell of a season. They played against some tough teams. You look at Texas, you look at what they did to Georgia, you look at what they've done throughout the season. They deserve to be in the spot. And I think with Marcus Freeman, once he gets more talent, the best is yet to come. I do think on that mistake, though, when it was 31-23, why would you leave Jeremiah Smith one-on-one? Why would you leave arguably one of arguably the best wide receiver in football one-on-one. That is just a mistake. You got to double cover him, champ. You've mentioned Megatron S. Either double or triple cover him. That was the mistake that Notre Dame made. Big one. But overall, we all predicted that Ohio State was going to win this game. They were more complete of a team. And I was kind of surprised though that Notre Dame made it more close because I actually thought it was going to be like 50-7. But that's the beauty of college sports, particularly college football. You can't count out somebody out just yet. So, BRF, I'm gonna let you go first. What were your thoughts about the game?
It kind of went the way I expected it to go, a little higher scoring than I was kind of anticipating. But I mean, it went the way I expected. I mean, at the end of the day, I felt like it came down to what I figured it was going to come down to, and that was offensively, Ohio State just had more horses. Offensively, they just had more horsepower. They had more firepower. I mean, you look at Jeremiah Smith, who I don't think is arguably, I think he is the best wide receiver in college football. even with a Ryan Williams down in Alabama, I don't think it's arguably. I think Jeremiah Smith is the best wide receiver in college football. I think any other year, if he wasn't a freshman, any other year, this might be a little hot take. Any other year, if it wasn't for those two quarterbacks, he's the number 1 overall draft pick. Any other year, if he's not a freshman, he's contender for the number 1 overall draft pick. I mean, his skill set is right there. His route running, his hands, his speed, his size, which I think is one thing a lot of people, we mention it, but we kind of gloss over it a little bit. The dude is humongous. The dude is a big boy at the wide receiver position to have the attributes that he has. It translates to the next level just like so greatly. I mean, so it's like, yeah. But honestly though, the running game of it, for me, it was also the running game of Ohio State. The running backs, Quinshon Judkins in particular, just went off, went off, and I feel like getting them established early, them getting hot early, really put Notre Dame in a bind to where they kind of had to go out of their element to try to rely on the passing game, the quick strike, to try to get back in the game. But Riley Leonard went out there and made plays. I mean, what can you say? They went out and made plays, and they made it a game. It's because I'm not gonna lie, I'm seeing 31-7. I'm saying strike the band up, go and bring the trophy out, get everybody together. Let's go. Let's hurry up, get this game over with so we can watch the celebration post game. But Notre Dame made it a game, but that's a testament just to, like we said, like Notre Dame was coming. I feel like Notre Dame was coming in this playing with house money. I mean, nobody was going to really pick them to win like that. They had nothing to lose, and they made a game out of it. But at the end of the day, Ohio State was just they were just too much at the end of the day. And yeah, I get Notre Dame has they have good corners. They have good corners, but I feel like in a situation like that, with a guy the caliber of Jeremiah Smith, you can't leave your corners on an island with him, because all it's going to take is that one perfect pass, which is what Will Howard threw. Jeremiah Smith beat the coverage, and bam! Next thing you know, you're in the red zone, and that pretty much turned the tide of the rest of the game. So you just have to give it to Ohio State, and like their play calling and just their ability to execute for the majority of that game. Outside of that stretch where Notre Dame made a game of it, Ohio State was clearly the better team, and it showed. And they deserved to walk out of Atlanta with that national championship. They deserved to walk out with it. Now, to make a statement as far as the Big Ten being the new dominant conference, I get they have back-to-back national championships. Right now, you kind of have to say they are the best conference in college football. Are the ultra dominant days of the SEC done? Yeah, the ultra dominant days are done. I don't think the SEC is done with winning national championships by any stretch. They're not done, especially competing. They're not done. The ultra dominance is over, and I think right now you have to give it to the Big Ten. Michigan winning it last year, Ohio State winning it this year. I mean, you have to kind of give the nod to them as being the top conference in college football. And I know a lot of Big Ten fans have been waiting to hear that for a while, but I mean, the proof is in the pudding. The proof is there. You've won the last 2 national championships. The proof is there. So, but now it's up to them to kind of maintain that, the recruiting and like the coaching and being able to get the players and execute on every given on Saturday to continue to prove this. Because it's like I said, the SEC's not going anywhere. As I feel like as long as you have a Georgia, as long as you have a Tennessee, as long as you have Texas, as long as you have an LSU, as long as you have those teams in the mix, doing it year in and year out, and especially the Alabama Crimson Tide as well. As long as you have them in the mix, that conference is not going anywhere. But right now, yes, the Big Ten is the best conference in college football. So that's pretty much all I got to say about that. Ohio State was just a better team. You just got to give them a shout out. They made more plays and they held up. They held up more when it mattered. But shout out to Notre Dame, though. They're not going anywhere either. Shout out to Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman. I feel like this was a big step in the right direction for them as well, to be able to recruit better, to continue to recruit better, and hopefully contend. And for everybody that was saying Notre Dame ought to join the conference, nah, they all right.
Champ, talk to me.
Oh man, what were they thinking leaving him down there by himself, one-on-one coverage? There's a rule at the house during Thanksgiving: don't leave Champ around the cheesecake by himself. It's gone. Don't leave Champ around the cheesecake because it's gone. So why would that's equivalent to leaving Jeremiah Smith one-on-one? You left him around the cheesecake, so it's gone. So why would you do that in the first place? It was a dominant performance. You have to ask yourself, hey, were they able to catch up because they were just that good, or did Ryan Day slow the game down a little bit too much? You have to ask yourself that question, because we saw a lot of explosive plays, them leading up to scoring 31 points. But as the scoring, and they got, it was like, all right, then let's start playing keep away and stuff like that. You saw a little bit of that. As far as Jeremiah Smith is concerned, look, he's so good. Somebody offered him $5 million in order to get the hell away from Ohio State. That's how good he is. They offered him $5 million to say, you leave Columbus, Ohio, and come to where we at. They won't say what school it was, but you leave Ohio State, we'll give you $5 billion. In the great words of Uncle Elroy, I would have been gone. I'm just letting you know that right now. So, hey, that's how good that he is. If it was anybody, and that just goes to show the loyalty of that young man as well. Well, loyalty is kind of put on a hold right about now, as is more turned into a business aspect in college football. That just shows how committed he is to Ohio State. So big up to him. Loyalty is not dead as of yet. Ohio State was the better team. Quinshawn Jenkins, and hey man, look, they talk about, it's the SEC. Hey, they're one of their key players came from the SEC. Mm-hmm. Quinshawn Jenkins was the leading rusher at Ole Miss. He led the league in rushing at Ole Miss last year. He led the SEC in rushing. So hey, you might hate the SEC, but one or two of your key players came from the SEC.
Shouldn't that tell you something, Champ?
Yeah, we ain't done yet.
No, not just that. Dabo. If you're Dabo Sweeney, you better get ahead with the times.
Yep. But that is another segment for another day. But I will say this, though. As far as the SEC dominance being over, I'll never forget this. Everybody was talking about how Lennox Lewis was the greatest fighter of his generation after he beat, I think it was Hassan Rahman.
Yes.
After he beat Hassan Rahman.
The second time, I think.
The second time, yeah. After he beat Hassan Rahman for the second time and beat Holyfield and guys like that. Not to mention when he beat Vladimir Klitschko. People was talking about that he was the best fighter of his generation. But you know what conventional wisdom tells us? That era began after Tyson went south. And I say that to say this. It was because SEC had a down year. Georgia had a down year. Alabama had a down year. They just had a new coach. A lot of players were not in positions where they needed to be, as far as Lane Kiffin slipping down there at Ole Miss as usual. And not to mention, look, You had 4 SEC teams that made it to the college football playoffs. You had 4. So it's not over yet. You know, let's not get carried away. You win, look, when you win 15 out of 20 national championships, then we can talk about the dominance being over. We can talk about the dominance being over there. But as long as the SEC is alive and well and they keep that conference together, because Texas just came to that conference. Oklahoma. You mean to tell me ain't none of these teams finna go? Florida is coming back. So as long as there is dominant teams and dominant players that's willing to come down south, we're going to have dominant teams. And guess what? Look, I applaud the Big Ten for winning back-to-back national championship. Clap, clap. Good job. I'm proud of you. But let's just be clear. When we was at our best, you couldn't beat us. When you was at your best, we beat you. Your quarterback that's playing in the Houston Texans that we had as an MVP candidate last year, oh, yeah, you had him, and you still couldn't beat Georgia. Oh, Michigan, we got y'all too the year before. So don't get it twisted. The South is not over. I mean, for all these Big Ten fans walk around, oh, the rain is over. No, partner. You won 2 back-to-back. We've been doing, I'll never forget when The Rock told Jericho this. He said, yes, you won 1 big one, maybe 2. But remember, I was out here winning big ones when you was down in WCW getting your butt kicked by Juventud Guerrero. So we was winning national championships when y'all was getting beat by Northern Illinois, Ohio State. So don't get it twisted. The South, look, as long as we have Kirby Smart, Sarkisian, we had a super, and not to mention, look, y'all know what's about to happen to Texas, right? Archie Manning about to take over.
Yeah, Quinn Ewers applied for the NFL draft.
Quinn Ewers is gone. So as long as you have those star-studded coaches in the SEC, there's gonna be a team that's gonna compete. And guess what? The reign isn't over. We had plenty of teams that made the college football playoffs. We have some talented players. I mean, one of our best quarterbacks who was in the SEC for Tennessee, he's a freshman. You know, so it's only going to get better. We got a lot of guys coming back from Georgia. We got a lot of guys going back to Texas. So, yeah, you know, you won your 2 big ones. Win a little bit more, and then we can start talking. Because there was last couple years, that wasn't even Nick Saban's best team that you beat last year. Let's just be clear. That wasn't Nick Saban's best team. Guess what? When you put your best against the SEC and we was at our best, we beat you. So let's stop. Let's stop the whole malarkey. Oh, the South is over. No, it's just beginning. Because the thing is this, the second after Georgia lost, guess what happened the next day? Kirby Smart got his behind in that transfer portal and got the recruiting. And we got some recruits the very next day. Oh, the South ain't over. We just getting started. But I will give credit where credit is due. Ohio State, you did your thing throughout all odds. And I was rooting for you. The only thing that I was rooting for was, you know, I wanted it to be Georgia versus Ohio State, but we was not good enough to make the national championship. Let's just be clear. We wasn't good enough to make it. But, yeah, but you was great this year. And big ups to Will Howard. You proved me wrong, and I'm glad that you did. But the thing is, winning 2 back-to-back national championship as a conference, all right, guess what? When you can have 3 different dynasties throughout a decade, then we can talk. Because guess what? Florida in the early 2000s. Then LSU had 2 of them. Matter of fact, LSU is becoming more Miami than Miami is right about now. When you think about the talent as far as in the wide receiver position, at the quarterback position, on the running back position and everything like that. Look at the guys who the SEC's put in the NFL. Guess what, Jaden? Where's Jaden Daniels from again?
LSU. And
Where's
before
LSU?
Arizona State.
No. Let's try again.
Jaden Daniels?
Yeah, Jaden Daniels. Where's Jaden Daniels from again? LSU.
Yeah, LSU. He played for a year there at LSU.
Yeah. Where's that at? The SEC.
Yeah, we know SEC. Same thing with Burrow. He went from Ohio State to LSU.
SEC. So
yeah, there you go.
Malik Neighbors, Justin Jefferson, all those guys. We call the Philadelphia Bulldogs for a reason. So it ain't over yet, baby. It's only just beginning. We had a down year. You got to have your turn sometime. But best believe we will be back. But like I said, we're going to give y'all the title this year. Give credit what credit is due. But like I said, the main reason why is because Tyson went south. Lennox Lewis, enjoy your reign while it lasts.
Basically, I'm going to show you a photo of how Champ is actually feeling because I don't know. I'm not going to call Champ a liar, but this is exactly how he truly feels about whether the SEC losing dominance. I was gonna bring the photo.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't think it's over. I don't
either
think
that
it's
photo
over.
or this one right here.
No, I don't. We'll go with the first. we'll go with.
Yeah, do it.
My jaws look big.
Do it.
I need to hop my ass on the treadmill. But I need to handcuff myself to that. That's bad.
Oh boy.
Good
Chip look like a dark skinned Kirby with the jaw.
Well, I'm going to go on Super Smash Brothers or something, man. Y'all, this time, bro. Damn, bitch. I thought we was cool. You good side. You got me looking like a damn got me looking like Candy Daddy Kirby that laced up together. What's wrong with you? Yeah, it's time to hop on the Stairmaster tomorrow, boy. Don't get off like an hour. But we got PSP over here crying.
Hell, I'm crying too, and I said it. God damn.
It's hysterical.
Hey, cut down on them Happy Meals, but let me tell you something. But hey, but all jokes aside, man. Big ups to the Big Ten. Y'all did y'all thing. And look, it's quite ironic that the powerhouses of the Big Ten has come back. You know, when you talk about Michigan and when you talk about Ohio State. So, I mean, and I think they can do something for a very, very long time, those two teams, because Coach Sharoni is proving that he can coach, and Ryan Day he proved me right, and I'm so happy that he did. He's the Kirby Smart of the Big Ten.
Also give credit to Chip Kelly as well, too. Some people may not want to give Chip Kelly credit, but hey, he's better suited college. I mean, some of the offensive play calls that he was going with, you got to give Chip Kelly some love, too.
Yes, got to give Chip Kelly some credit, regardless of how you may feel about him, as far as what he did with, the Eagles and the Niners. But you got to give credit where credit is due. But all jokes aside, I'm glad that the powerhouse teams are doing their thing once again in Ohio State and in the Michigans and in, Notre Dame and places like that. Because guess what? Everybody might love the SEC, but having those powerhouses do their thing is equivalent to what's happening in the NFL right now, with the Commanders doing their thing, with the Chiefs, a historic team, doing their thing, with the Buffalo Bills doing their thing. When the flagship franchises are winning, it's always better. So I have to give credit where credit is due. But the South ain't over yet, man. I mean, we ain't done with it. I think when Kellen DeVore gets that team where he needs it to be, I think it's going to be something special. I think when the air raid gets to where it needs to be in Alabama, I think he can have that team about as ready as Steve Spurrier did with Florida, because the air raid ain't nothing but a modified version of the run and shoot, if you ask me. But I think once the coaches get themselves in line, mainly Kalen DeVore, once we get Gunnar Stockton where he needs to be in his progression, once the Tennessee quarterback, once those powerhouses in the SEC gets their players in position to where they need to be and where they need to be as far as maturity wise, and speed them up and bring them up to speed, that'll be when we're able to see the maturation process. So I don't think the South is over at all, but I will give credit to the Big Ten. You got your wish, back-to-back championship, but guess what? Get 2-3 dynasties, and then we'll talk about y'all game compared to the SEC.
All right. Now, BRF, Champ and I wish I could have had you on for Monday night for the pod. Champ and I did our recap on the NFL playoff games. I'm going to let you go first. What were your thoughts on all four of the games between the Texans, Chiefs, Commanders, Lions, Rams, Eagles, and Ravens, Bills? And don't worry, Champ, you'll have the opportunity to give your assessment as well as me. So I just want to get BRF's take.
All right. Well, all right. So we're going to talk about all four. We'll go in order. We'll start with that Houston, Kansas City game. People are I don't like the fact that people are kind of ragging on Houston for kind of coming up short in the moment, when in reality is just, I've said this, in a big game in Arrowhead, you cannot let the referees determine anything, because you will never win. You will never win. You will never win. I feel like that with home playoff games anyway. But for some reason, Kansas City just has this evil devil voodoo magic going on right now, where it's just no matter what you do, it don't matter. It don't matter. And Houston had a shot to win that game, but it was just, there were definitely bad calls that hurt them. But still, at the end of the day, the Kansas City Chiefs are the 3 out of 4 and back-to-back defending Super Bowl champions for a reason. I mean, this is what they do. They come to play, especially in the big moments and when it's time to show up, like in the playoffs. And they did what they needed to do. And there's really nothing more to say on that. Houston, you can't leave the game in the referee's hands. Against a team like Kansas City, you have to come out and you have to take your opportunities, and you have to make the most of when you get opportunities. And they had plenty of opportunities to win, and they couldn't do it. So shout out to Kansas City. I mean, what more is there that needs to be said about the Kansas City Chiefs? I mean, this is what they do come playoff time, and we said it, until someone comes and is ready to slay the king, I'm gonna pick the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'll tell you right now, I'm picking them to beat Buffalo. I'll go ahead and say it now. I'm picking them to beat Buffalo.
Okay.
Until somebody can show me that they can slay the Kings, I'm not picking anybody else in the playoffs till somebody show me they can beat them.
Let me ask you, before we move on to the next games, BRF, I asked this question to Champ about the refs officiating. Do you feel like it's getting to a point where it's going too far? Because even the great Troy Aikman had an issue with it. Particularly, do you remember the play when Patrick Mahomes slid and the refs called for helmet to helmet, but clearly there was contact on the Houston players. There was not even contact on Patrick Mahomes. Do you feel like the refs have gone too far with some of the calls? Because not just with this game, but throughout the season. Because let's put it in chronological order. You look at the Bengals week 2. Hell, look at the Falcons game Sunday night. The non-pass interference call in which they should have called on Kyle Pitts. And I feel like with the Chiefs, man, look, I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist because look, they have a chance to three-peat. You know, at that game, you did see Taylor Swift. You did see Caitlin Clark in that game. Taylor Swift, one of the faces of music. Caitlin Clark, the face of the WNBA, although you can make an argument for Asia Wilson, and one of the faces of women's sports. I feel like with Kansas City, I don't want to say, I mean, if you want to say that it's rigged or built up, but I feel like they're getting away with too many plays. And particularly, remember the one on Will Anderson, in which on the roughing the passer on Patrick Mahomes? Has it gone too far with the refs officiating BRF?
I think it has. I think it has. And yeah, and I'm glad you brought that one up. The Will Anderson call. They called a roughing the passer. They called it a shot to the helmet. And the replay clearly showed he hit him in the shoulder. Wasn't even close to that man's helmet. It's getting too far. It's getting way too far. I understand Patrick Mahomes is that guy. I mean, for all intents and purposes, he's the face of the NFL for all intents and purposes. But he's still human, and he's still a quarterback, and he's still a football player. He can get this work too. He is a football player at the end of the day. He can get hit too, just like any of them. Just like any of them. And I think it is going too far. It's like, I mean, I understand the quarterback position. I understand this league sells still, even though running backs are making the comeback. I mean, let's face it, the money is still made through the quarterback position, the advertising, the touchdown passes, all that. And Patrick Mahomes is the face of all that. And I get it. But at the same time, it's just you still got to go out and play football at the end of the day. You still got to go out and play football. And I don't like seeing referees dictate these games like this. Like the call against Will Anderson, the call where Patrick Mahomes became a runner and slid really, really, really late, I might add, to draw that penalty. And then it was the Houston Texans players hitting each other. That kind of reminded me of the Michael Vick play in Minnesota in 2002, where he made the Minnesota players run into each other on the touchdown run when they won in overtime. It kind of put me in the mind of that.
Yeah.
And you brought up the Kyle Pitts play. I mean, there were just so many things that the Kansas City Chiefs in particular have gotten away with this year. And I do not think the NFL is rigged. But seeing what the Kansas City Chiefs has gotten away with this year, it almost makes you want to feel like the NFL is trying to walk them hand in hand in the Super Bowl 59. And I don't like that, and it's getting too far. I mean, these referees really, it's getting to a point where they need to start getting investigated, and they need to start getting fined and suspended when they have bad games and they have bad calls, because they are employees of the league too. They are not above the law. They are not above punishment when they have bad games. So yeah, I definitely do think they've gone too far. So I agree. I definitely think so.
Champ, is there anything you want to add before we move on to Commanders versus Lions?
Yeah, I think that to BR's point, man, yeah, I remember the Kyle Pitts no call. That was crazy. And did we forget about the hip drop tackle this past Sunday?
Oh, yeah, the one on Dalton Schultz.
Yeah.
And they implemented that rule this season.
Exactly. Now, fairness to the ref, they haven't really called that on anybody this season. They're just being real honest with you. But yeah, it's getting out of control. And I understand the Kansas City faithful, Chiefs Kingdom. This is no disrespect to y'all when we say that. This is no disrespect to no knock on y'all. We're not trying to tarnish you guys' championships, because you still have to win the game. Bad call or no bad calls, you still got to perform and overcome those things. But the thing is, you got to ask yourself, when you on the receiving end, but I will say this, let me retract. If we get into the AFC Championship today, and a favorable call goes on the Buffalo Bills, and they get a no call or a bad call, I don't want to hear your lips. Just being real, because y'all been calling people. I see it on the internet, on TikTok, on YouTube. Y'all crybabies. You still got okay. We get it. That's your. You guys are the fan base, and we're not trying to take anything away from y'all. But If you get a no call this Sunday on the way to the three-peat and the three-peat gets denied, keep that same energy, because we told y'all how bad these refs are. You just can't call these guys out when the calls aren't going in your favor. Call them out when they do. Even Troy Aikman called him out. He's a quarterback. And then
people were questioning, is he jealous? What?
Troy Aikman
three Super Bowl championships, one of the greatest dynasties in the history of the league, and he jealous.
No, let me just break something down to you. Do you realize the magnitude? And I'm gonna put this lightly, family friendly. Do you realize the magnitude of winning 3 championships with the Dallas Cowboys? I will leave it at that. They literally had a house across the street from the practice facility called the White House. So, to fans who are sitting around here saying, Troy Aikman's jealous, he has the same amount of Super Bowls as Patrick Mahomes. What are you talking about? He's a dynasty just like Patrick Mahomes. He has a dynasty. He's written in history. He's in the Hall of Fame. Not to mention, if his coach doesn't get fired, he probably has more Super Bowls than Patrick Mahomes. He probably gets 10.
Yeah. Had not been for Jerry.
Yes. So stop with these shenanigans and stop being fanboys, because that's unnecessary. How is Troy Aikman jealous of Patrick Mahomes because he called something out as he sees it? How?
I think the reason why they say that, Champ, is because, old guy, get off my lawn. You know, he played in a tougher era compared to the era where Patrick Mahomes played. You wish you would be playing this well in today's era. I think that those are the reasons why. But here's the thing. Troy Aikman has won 3 Super Bowls with the Dallas Cowboys. He's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. No, he's not the talent Patrick Mahomes is, but during his time, he was a contributor and in the Pro Football Hall of Fame and knows football and does a damn good job commentating, not only with the NFL on Fox, but now with ESPN. So if anyone is more than qualified giving their opinion about something, it's Troy Aikman. And sorry to steal your thunder, Champ. It's just getting to a point where some of these calls, I feel like it's becoming blatant because it's pretty obvious, it's clear, but you just don't want to call them. Why is it? Because Kansas City, are they the New England Patriots? Is it because of the attraction they bring not only on the field, but also off the football field? Because I just mentioned the commodities with Taylor Swift and with Caitlin Clark. And once they head to the Super Bowl, and of course it's going to be in New Orleans, expect a bunch of celebrities there. Obviously, it's because it's the Super Bowl and also because it's New Orleans, and people want to see history. People want to see something that's unprecedented, which is an NFL team to three-peat. But when you say Troy Aikman is jealous, you losing me with that, because Troy Aikman is just giving you his assessment, whether you agree or disagree. And if you want to disagree, that's fine. But to accuse him of being jealous?
You know what? I can understand if they said Tony Romo was jealous. He doesn't have any Super Bowls. He might not make it to the Hall of Fame.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. But you telling me that Troy Aikman is jealous of Patrick Mahomes? Are you kidding me? Troy was at the forefront of one of the greatest dynasties in history. He was beating the greatest quarterbacks in history. Brett Favre, he beat him. Steve Young, he beat him. Jim Kelly, he beat him.
Twice.
Barry Sanders, he beat him. So I beat some of the greatest players of all time on the biggest stage. What the blank reason do I have to be jealous of Patrick Mahomes for? And I did it on America's team. I did it on the most star-studded. I did it at the peak, when the time where the defense was at its premium. I did it so well as a quarterback, it being in Troy Aikman, that the 49ers literally had to go get 2 other Hall of Famers in order to beat me when you think about Ricky Jackson and Deion Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
So miss me with that. Is he jealous? No. He's called. Don't let your fandom override your football knowledge. Again, don't let your fandom override your football knowledge. I love the Atlanta Falcons all day, every day, but when they're playing terrible, I call it like I see it. They're playing terrible. When they miss a call, when they don't do something right, I call out the organization. If something doesn't go right with that, and we get a favorable call, guess what? BRF will tell you, I call it as I see it. If another team with even, and BRF has checked me about this on a stitch I did when Derek Carr got picked up by the New Orleans Saints. The first thing I said, okay, they went in the division. So the thing is, even though I'm an Atlanta Falcons fan, I call it as I see it. You don't have to get to the point where your fandom overrides your football knowledge. And I think people are just going too far with the fandom. And the thing is, as much as you love the Kansas City Chiefs and everybody like that, hey, a lot of guys don't even know who Marty Schottenheimer is or how long he coached the team, or Vic Vermeil or any of those historic coaches before. They probably couldn't tell me who the coach was before Andy Reid. So don't let your fandom get into the way of your football knowledge. As I always used to say, and this is a statement that I made popular last year on Brandon from the Blocks podcast. Shout out to Brandon. Y'all know football better than that.
No, they did not.
They did. Grant.
Oh my, Brian Schottenheimer, bro.
But no. Talk about. I don't hold on. Why are we surprised? Why the hell are we surprised?
Wow.
To be fair, that is Marty's boy.
Yes.
It is Marty Schottenheimer's boy.
That is Marty Schottenheimer's son. So, but at the same time, I told Cowboy fans, I've told people before. There were even reports before that they were going to hire about Pete Carroll. No, that Pete Carroll ain't going to Dallas. Are you kidding me? Which is,
I think he's going to the Raiders.
Yeah, and we're going to discuss about that later on the show.
Let me look this up. I think Grant pulling our leg. He might be pulling our leg, bro.
No. He sent me an
article.
Grant ain't gonna let Cowboys are hiring
shut up,
Brian Schottenheimer as their new coach. This is what Jerry Jones told Adam Schefter of ESPN.
Shout out to homie Grant. He ain't gonna make up nothing like that. Shout out to homie Grant.
This is the same one who
leg at first, Grant. But
no. This is the same Grant who remember the Carl Anthony Towns to New York trade. He let us know about that. So
I'm saying, man. Grant has hooked us up with some breaking news moments over the number of months, man. Shout out to the homie Grant.
Oh man. Now I gotta hear this in the morning. Now I gotta deliver the bad news to mom in the morning because of Jerry Jones.
No. Don't try to aggravate mama now. Listen, Mama Chan, I'm quite sure she's a wonderful, kind, beautiful person. No, you don't want to aggravate mama. If you want to
do not believe that.
Champ, if you're gonna do something with her to get her mind off of that, take her to a bar, take her to a nice restaurant or something. Do some mother son things, man. Buy her chocolates. Go do something with her.
Hey, good, but hey, champ, from Falcon fan to Falcon fan. Good. Let me hit some better news at you. Okay, the Houston Texans. You see how they defensive line. Not that. You see how their defensive line played this year. You see how good their defensive line has been this year. The Falcons got their defensive line coach, Nate Ollie.
Yeah.
That's a huge one.
I just cannot. Jerry, you could have did better than that, man. You could have done better than that.
He ain't gonna do it. I told you, Chip. I told you. He invited Mike McCarthy over to the crib for beer and nachos.
You should have just kept Mike McCarthy if you was gonna do some stuff like that. You should have.
If you're gonna hire another yes man, you should have kept Mike McCarthy.
Mike McCarthy
Yeah.
finally had enough, and he said, "No, I've caped up for you enough. Let me get my bread." Jerry's like, "Well, no. I mean, I might as well move on." And I give kudos for Mike McCarthy because he finally decided to move on. This is the problem with the Dallas Cowboys, man. They are going to hire yes men. After that
And I
loss to the Packers last year, people talked about
think,
Bill Belichick, Jim Harbaugh. They weren't going to hire any of a head coach that has a leg to stand on. I am not surprised. I'm more shocked that they didn't hire Brandon Staley, but they decided to hire Schottenheimer because, of course, nepotism, the son of Marty Schottenheimer. Champ, I've told you this before, man. This is how the Dallas Cowboys are going to be as long as Jerry Jones runs the show. This is just who they are. Jerry's going to hire yes men, which is why they ain't going to win. And this is actually, and I just wish, to BRF's point, man, we got at some point in time, we got to stop talking about the Cowboys. I get it, they're America's team. I get they're worth $6-8 billion. I get this. Jerry is loving this because he's getting his headlines, he's getting his ratings, he's getting people like us to continuously talk about him because at the end of the day, they still America's team. If this were any other organization, would we be talking about them as much as the Dallas Cowboys?
no, not at all. And like, and I'll add something else. Like, I really don't want to talk about them anymore until they have the gall to make another NFC Championship game. Because I got a stat. I got a stat. I think I pulled it out on the chat. I pulled it out in the pod chat. I got a stat. If you're in the chat right now, y'all gotta hear this. Cause this stat is gonna blow your mind a little bit, and you're gonna laugh and just in the fact that you're not surprised by this stat. With the Washington Commanders reaching the NFC Championship game, if you go all the way back to 96, the last time the Dallas Cowboys made the NFC Championship, with Washington making it, Dallas is the last NFC team that has not made the NFC Championship since the last time they went. Every other NFC team has gone at least once.
Oh, we talked about that, BRF. Jep and I will tell you that. Don't you find it pretty ironic that all three of them teams have been to a conference championship game and you haven't? Still in
And
30 years?
they haven't. Philadelphia's won championships. The New York Giants have won championships. The Washington Commanders has a shot to make the Super Bowl. Imagine if they pull a championship out before the Dallas Cowboys. Bro, we laughing to the bank. We laughing to the bank.
Man,
Well, hell,
of
Tampa
all
Bay has been
people,
to
you
Super
hire
Bowls and won
Brian
them.
Schottenheimer. I understand
Atlanta's
he's
been in
Marty
two.
and I understand that he's Marty Schottenheimer's son, but the only time that he's been at the top of his game was that 2008 New York Jets team. They only ranked in the top 10 once when he was there. And my thing is, if you want to play Marty ball, which he probably does, the offense that's patterned after his father, you need running backs in order to do that.
This is an Ashton. This has got to be an Ashton Genty move. Got to be.
It's either that or there's several running backs that are scheduled to go. Either you need to do that, or Quinshawn Jenkins is coming out, Cam Scatterbu, Ollie Gordon is coming out, Amarion Hampton, those guys are coming out. If you don't get a running back to go along with this, you're not committed to winning. In the great words of knowledge, you ain't real with it. But you had all of these superstar coaches, all of these superstar coaches. You had Pete Carroll came out of retirement. He was teaching at USC.
And he was smart enough to say, "No, I'm going to Vegas because
I'd
guess
rather
what?
go to Vegas than you."
That dude rather
because,
go to
hey,
Vegas than you, boy.
well, first of all, Vegas is Vegas. I mean, you can't go
Well,
wrong.
Mark Davis is not a better owner than Jerry Jones. Let's just leave it clear.
I'm talking about the lifestyle, the atmosphere in Vegas. I'm not talking about the organization.
You might have a point there.
Let me tell you something. That team, let me tell you something. That team ain't good enough to bring me to that lifestyle. I don't care how pretty Vegas is. That team ain't good enough to get me to that lifestyle. This is embarrassing.
I'll tell you one thing that they do have. They got Tom Brady. They got Tom Brady. Isn't he part owner of the Raiders? So guess what?
Now he is, yes.
So guess what? Mark Davis, this is the best hiring that you've made in a long time. So guess what? Pete Carroll, I don't care how old you are. We know what you've done on the collegiate and on the professional level. You've won championships. We're going to let you run the show. And we'll talk about Pete Carroll later on. But Jerry, I am not surprised nor shocked with this hiring. It tells you what I've said about the Dallas Cowboys before. Jerry Jones will continue to hire yes men. You better hope that Stephen Jones doesn't follow the same exact traits as Jerry. I will give one silver lining though. He was the same Stephen Jones that talked Jerry out of drafting Johnny Manziel. Because had Jerry had drafted Johnny Manziel back in 2014, all hell would have broken loose.
They wouldn't have the division championships they would have won if they had drafted Johnny Manziel. That would have pushed him back even farther.
Jerry, you're going to have to do better than this, man, because the thing is, and like I said, I'm not even a Cowboys fan. My mother's a Cowboys fan. I have to watch the games just to keep her updated because she don't even want to watch the games no more. So yeah, I've been watching the Cowboys the last 2 years because she don't even want to watch the games no more. So, Jerry, you could have did better than that, man. You had all of these coaches. And my thing is, when Ben Johnson left Detroit, he grabbed Antoine Randall and brought him with him. So you had all of these superstar high commodity coaches. And God rest his soul. No disrespect to Marty. If he would have gotten Marty, if Marty had still been alive, I understand. But Brian does not have the cachet that a Marty Schottenheimer does, man. I don't. Mm-hmm. That's ugly to the masterpiece sneakers, bro. Come on, bro.
Look, I hope for Brian Schottenheimer. I wish he does well. I hope he does well. I don't want him to fail, but at the same time, we all know what time it is. The reason why you got this job was because of nepotism and because Jerry's interested in hiring another yes man. Jerry Jones will never hire a head coach with cachet and allowing them to do the job. I'm sorry, but that's just what it is. And until Cowboys fans realize that, look, I've said it before, and this is why early on I get on with a lot of people, even at age, champ. If you've been this way before, what do you think you're going to be when you're older?
My thing is, even at my age of 37, you start realizing this. If you don't evolve, then eventually you unalive yourself. If you keep, look, we got an old saying down south. If you keep doing what you've been doing, then that's all you're going to get is what you get. Stop hiring people within that Dallas organization because you're afraid that the coach is going to overshadow you. You want to win a Super Bowl, don't you? Hey, look, the Cowboys winning the Super Bowl is like the Boston Celtics or the Lakers winning the championship. Huge market, the flagship franchise. And you go out here and you hire Brian Schottenheimer with that talented team that you have. Because that team got talent now. Let's not get it twisted. So if you was going to do all of that, you just should have kept who you had. I mean, it's kind of, I hate to make this comparison. It's kind of like, you going from Jennifer Lopez to Madonna. Why'd you do that? So why? You just should have stuck with who you was with.
You could have just said Halle Berry was Snooki.
Yeah. We'll say that after the show.
I got from Charles Barkley.
We digress, bro. We digress.
But anyway, BRF. Let's get back to football. Commanders versus Lions, though. First time
that game was fun.
Yes.
That game was fun. That game was so much fun. And honestly though, some people were saying it about the Detroit Lions. Shout out to the homie Flash. I think he was saying it too. When were those injuries going to catch up with the Detroit Lions, particularly on the defensive side of the ball? Could have got David Montgomery back for that game, but the injuries on that defense, and the defense isn't the greatest to begin with anyway when they're fully healthy. That was just Washington coming into the game with a game plan, and they executed to perfection. That's Jaden Daniels. PSP? What did I say after what did I say going into that Tampa game, or really after that Tampa game with Jaden Daniels? He's not scared of the moment. He's not scared.
Wasn't just you, BRF. Also, Champ said it himself too. He wouldn't be surprised if the Commanders made it to the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, he's not scared of big moments like this. That comes from a lot of games in college. That comes from playing on some pretty big stages in college, playing under the bright lights. Jaden Daniels is not scared of these big moments, and he rises to the occasion in big time moments, in big time situations. It's just what he does. And De'Ami Brown, is it clear to say breakout star of the playoffs so far?
Yes, he has. I mean, you look at the recent games against the Buccaneers, 5 catches, 89 yards, a touchdown. And this game against the Lions, he had over 100.
Yeah, I think he went 6 for 98 against Detroit. I mean, right now he is like the breakout star of the playoffs right now with what he's been doing. And you got to think, man, you got Terry McLaurin on that team. Terry McLaurin is in top 10, top 12 considerations as far as like best wide receivers in the league. And De'Ami Brown is putting up these type of numbers. But I mean, and that defense, they remind me of what a Dan Quinn defense is. I'm starting to see it. Maybe not as dominant as the Seattle Seahawks defense was, but if you go back to that 2016 and that 2017, those Falcons defenses, were they great as far as like yardage and giving up yardage? No. But what did those teams do really, really, really well? They took the ball away. They took the ball away, put the offense back on the field in prime and with prime field position, ample opportunity to score, and those offenses being explosive enough to bam, they take it to you and they put it in the end zone first chance they got. Washington came into this game with absolutely nothing to lose and everything to gain. Not only did they beat the Detroit Lions, they beat the Detroit Lions down. And it's just like, I mean, a lot of people weren't expecting that because I've said it time and time again. The Detroit Lions have a very disrespectfully good offense in terms of the play calling, in terms of the execution, as far as the players they have to execute that offense. It just meshed so well. And it was one of those games where they still put up 31 points, but that defense was just non-existent. And Washington basically just ripped them apart piece by piece by piece until they couldn't take it anymore. And I'm telling Philly, and the Philly fans out there, I'm telling y'all right now, y'all know what Jaden Daniels did to y'all in that game in Washington. When y'all had that big lead and he came back and put it on you and won that game. When y'all was still trying to win the NFC East and y'all was still playing y'all players. When y'all still trying to win the division. Jaden Daniels is not going to be scared at the moment going in Philadelphia in a big game like this. He's coming to win. I don't think Jaden Daniels is one of these rookies that's just happy to be in the NFC Championship game. He's trying to win the NFC Championship to get to Super Bowl 59. That game was just all about Washington's ability to shut out the noise, to withstand the early. It's like how they always say in road games, you gotta ride out that early wave of momentum that the Detroit Lions is gonna get from their crowd. Washington rolled it out. And honestly, I don't think that Detroit crowd was really ever a factor in that game. Washington took it to them from minute one, and they didn't stop until that last turnover that pretty much iced the game. Shout out to the Washington Commanders, man. Yeah, like because you said it, PFP. Me and Champ said they had a great shot to make it to the NFC Championship game because they're playing with house money. They got nothing to lose, and look where we're at right now. We got an
And
all NFC East NFC Championship game.
first time I think since '86. Shout out to Broad for bringing up that stat because he mentioned it on the group chat. But here's my thing, BRF. They go for it on fourth down, and they're not afraid. And I understand why they decided to go for it on fourth down because they apparently Gonzalez, the kicker. This is now their sixth time with a kicker we've had this season. And the thing is, Dan Campbell, 12 men on the field. Nah, you cannot make that type of mistake. You should have called the timeout. Even I'm kind of shocked that they didn't call a timeout. And then once the refs like 12 men on the field, you're giving Washington, like you said, playing with house money, nothing but more momentum. And
Exactly.
and when I look at Washington, I am concerned about our defense as far as stopping the run because we're 30th in the NFL at stopping the run. Detroit had, if they had any chance of winning this game, is because of Sonic and Knuckles, as you mentioned with Montgomery and Gibbs, because they were running the football in that game. But Dan Campbell, some of the decisions that you made, Jaden Daniels, calm, poised, under pressure. Brian Robinson Jr., Austin Eckler, Rodriguez, they made some plays. De'Ami Brown played well, 6 catches for 98 yards. Zach Ertz he's not going to score a lot of plays. He's not going to make a lot of plays for you, but on third down, fourth down, he's going to make some key catches for you. And he definitely made a key play on the onside kick, though. But Dan Quinn with them turnovers, Quad Martin with the pick six. I keep mispronouncing the cornerback. He made one big play in the first half to end off the first half. The cornerback who cut off the route and caught the interception. The second one that golfed through Sanderstill, I think. That was a big play because had Detroit scored that one, they would have had more momentum. They would have had some momentum, but Washington refused to do that. And I've been critical of Cliff Kingsbury all along, man, all this season. I got to give him his due. And Dan Quinn, playing not to lose, not playing scared. Something that he's starting to learn more compared to Atlanta. Unfortunately, BRF and Champ running the ball more. And he's doing that more and more with Brian Robinson Jr. and with Eckler and with Rodriguez. Unfortunately for Washington, we did lose our best offensive lineman. That's Sam Cosmi. He's out. He won't play in the NFC Championship game with a torn ACL. And Philly, their defense is loaded. From, as you mentioned, Jam, the Philadelphia Bulldogs or the Georgia Eagles, from Nakobe Dean to Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, they're going to be loaded. But I do think if they underestimate Washington, you're asking for a world of trouble.
Oh, they can get beat. Oh, they can get beat too. This is not, like I said, if Philadelphia cannot come into this game looking towards the Super Bowl, they will get got. Washington can win this game.
And Philly is the favorites to win. Washington, as you mentioned, they're playing with house money. No one expecting them to go this far. This is at Lincoln Financial Field. Okay. So a rookie quarterback, Jaden Daniels, I don't know if we've ever seen a rookie quarterback get to a team to a Super Bowl. If he does this and actually pulls this off, to Champ's point, he could change the contracts. Because as he mentioned with Derrick Rose, like the first 3 years, and shout out to our guy Thomas, because we were on the Hops podcast. Shout out to Thomas. Please go like and subscribe to his content. Champ made a great point about Jaden Daniels, how he could change the perception for young players. Because if he does something, wins a Super Bowl, or goes to a Super Bowl, or does something that something so unprecedented, he could change the contracts. He can get the rookies to get more money than they could ever imagine. I mean, we can see something like that. Jamar Chase, people have forgotten he went to the Super Bowl in his rookie year in 2021, the year when the Bengals went to the Super Bowl against the Rams. So if Jaden Daniels could do something like this, and also Champ added another point. Reason why he didn't win the MVP, let's just be frank, he is a rookie. So, and yes, at the same time, people could argue, look at the numbers Lamar Jackson has put up. Look at what Josh Allen's had to work with the season. But no one expected Jaden Daniels, a guy with the number 2 overall pick, to carry this team. If you take Jaden Daniels out of the equation in Washington, Washington would be exactly where they've been before. But for him to turn around this franchise is nothing short of stellar. And if Washington loses this game, which I'll be on the record saying I have Philly winning this one. I do have Philly winning this game. If Washington loses, no, don't think this season was a fluke. I saw Champ's videos. I see a lot of Champ's videos. I look at Champ's videos more than Champ looks at the cheesecake. And I'm telling you, Washington, to his point, they saved up, what, $100 million?
$100 million in cap space. The only team that has more money than them in cap space is the New England Patriots, and they got $125 million. And they got 7 draft picks. I mean, you can pretty much, and you know, a lot of guys are on the block at this point. You know, you got to ask yourself, what would happen if, you know, Tyreek Hill requested a trade? What would happen? What is going to happen with Devontae Adams? That's another receiver right there. That's another weapon. With all these running backs that's coming out of college at this point, Cam Scatterboo, you know, we know Austin Eckler and Brian Robinson, they're not necessarily doable. So guess what? Are you gonna start looking towards the future, or you gonna ride it out with them?
I want some hogs.
Hey, 9 good running backs. Yeah, but look, quarterbacks are important, but them hogs, they are just as, if not more important. Because like I always say, the quarterback can't throw when he on his back. So, and that's the only position, even Jim Harbaugh said it, that's the only position where your performance is not predicated on the rest of the team. The rest of the team's performance is predicated on you. Because when you have a great offensive line, that opens up a hell of a lot of things. And if you don't believe that, look at the Philadelphia Eagles.
Absolutely. And the reason, and to the point, Champ, why I feel so optimistic about it, not only with the money, more importantly, Dan Snyder is not running the organization. Now, if it were Dan Snyder running the organization, it's like setting money on fire.
Yeah,
that's how I feel.
He might have signed me to about a 2-year contract worth $100 million.
Well, I mean, they wouldn't. I mean, you could be you could be a better version of Albert Hainsworth. All you got to do is just,
put some effort into
it. Show effort.
I mean, look at all the bad moves he made. I mean, Albert Hainsworth, Adam Archuleta, when we already have Ryan Clark as a safety, this is why you mentioned before. It's a culmination of things in Washington. Dallas Cowboys, you got Philadelphia with Josh Harris, you got LA with Magic Johnson, and the beauty of it, we have the money, the new ownership, to your point, Champ. Josh Harris, Magic Johnson, not perceived as football guys, more basketball guys. Mm-hmm. But they know how to win. And the thing is, they're going to hire the right people, and they're going to stay out the way. We trust you. We put a lot of investment in this. We believe in you. Just take us there. We'll stay out the way. And this is something to behold, because Eagles, Commanders, and Jerry, I don't know. You probably going to finish 3rd place in that division. I mean, only reason why you're going to finish 3rd because the Giants are dead last in the NFL as we speak. But Washington, if we lose this one, not that I wish we lose, but if we lose, don't think this season is a fluke, because we have a lot to look forward to heading into 2025 with the draft. And also, too, now because of the new ownership, we got a chance to acquire some free agents, because now Washington is no longer the bleep place it used to be. You even hearing Devontae Adams. He wants to play with Jaden Daniels. You want to hear other people want to play with Jaden Daniels. You want to hear other people play in Washington, Chocolate City, the nation's capital. Hey, another way for Washington. Why don't you bring back the old stadium, the RFK in DC? Not down mine, Landover, Maryland, but it would be great to bring it back to DC so that all the fans could be tuned in, man. But Washington, win or lose, the future is bright. This is not the future of Dan Snyder. This is the future of the new ownership, man. So I'm excited. Go ahead, champ.
Nothing attracts a free agent quite like winning. And
Absolutely.
if you don't believe that, just ask the New England Patriots and some of the star-studded players that have come there just so they can win. Corey Dillon, Darrell Revis, Wes Welker, Dante Stallworth, just to name a few. I mean, even James Harrison, when he got cut by the Pittsburgh Steelers, either he went there for a stint to try to win, try to win another one. So nothing attracts a free agent quite like winning. So if I know I can win somewhere, even if it's for 1 year, I'm going to go.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the next game, fellas. Rams versus Eagles. BRF, I'm gonna let you go because again, Champ and I, we had our opinions. Saquon Barkley, man, over 200
Beast.
yards rushing, beast. We knew it was gonna snow. The Rams, it was a really close game, though. I got to give a lot of credit to the Los Angeles Rams. It was close. Jalen Carter made a key big sack on 3rd and 2. What were your thoughts about the game? And also, Champ has talked about it multiple times about the criticism of Jalen Hurts. He thinks it's gone too far. What do you think about the criticism of Jalen Hurts? Has it been fair, unfair, and so much more regarding the game?
I think to an extent it's kind of warranted because particularly if you look at his playoff performances, really he's done okay, but as far as like just being the reason his team wins or has a shot to win, really outside of that Super Bowl against Kansas City where he outplayed Patrick Mahomes, he really doesn't have too many playoff performances like that. It's warranted because he shows a tendency to be inaccurate in terms of just sheer drop back passing. He does rely a little bit as far as like his running game being on point to set up the RPO, the passes out of RPOs and the play actions. And, the accuracy isn't always there as far as his drop back passes. That's something I do still think he needs to work on and get better. But at the same time, Jalen Hurts is still a playmaker. I mean, you saw with that long run he had for the touchdown in the game against the Rams. When you need him to make a play, Jalen Hurts can make a play with his legs. So I think still to an extent, like some of the criticism is warranted, but some of it does go a little overboard because at the end of the day, I mean, say what you want. I get this team is talented, but this team ain't winning the NFC with Kenny Pickett as his quarterback. Let's just be real. Kenny Pickett. They're not winning the NFC Championship with Kenny Pickett. I don't care how many talented guys they got. They're not winning the NFC Championship with Kenny Pickett. They got a much better shot to win that NFC Championship with Jalen Hurts. I mean, shoot, he's already won them. He's already helped them win one. So I mean, we still, it's just kind of one of those things where he ain't been on his game. But sometimes with a guy like Jalen Hurts, it just takes one drive. All it takes is just that one drive. You get him some passes early, you get him in the rhythm. It takes that one, and the next thing you know, you can set him up for the rest of the game, and he could have one of his more standout performances in the playoff game, getting the Eagles to the Super Bowl. But that game was just definitely that was a great game. Shout out to the LA Rams. They always talk about the warring teams, how the warring teams don't always travel in the cold weather situation. They showed up. They showed up. Defensive Rookie of the Year. Jared Verse is Defensive Rookie of the Year. Jared Verse has done so well as far as helping put that LA Rams front, that defense back on the map. He's awesome. He is the Defensive Rookie of the Year. and to perform the way he did after calling out the Philadelphia Eagles fans. A lot of times you do stuff like that, you don't always show up. He showed up. 2 sacks, pressures, all up in Jalen Hurts' face. The Eagles offensive line really couldn't do a whole lot with him. They just couldn't. Jared Verse was just he was bombing on him. He was killing them. Yes, Matthew Stafford. If that was his last game, if you're gonna lose, that's how you go out. You go out on your shield. Matthew Stafford. How we say down here, damn good dog. That's what Matthew Stafford is. That's what Matthew Stafford is. He has just wound up just building a remarkable career for himself, winning the championship with the Rams, and even with being in Detroit, some of the years he put up in Detroit, throwing 5,000 yards. I mean, just some of the offensive explosions he's had with those Detroit offenses, particularly with Calvin Johnson as his number one guy. I mean, Matthew Stafford has carved out a really, really great career for himself. And shout out to him. If it's the last game and he does call it a career, man, that's the way to go out. He's definitely, I feel like him and Matt Ryan are in that same tier as far as like can make the whole. They might not have the career as other like all-time great quarterbacks, but kind of has a Hall of Fame case, kind of in that same boat. That game came down honestly at the end of the day to Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley gained 534 total yards from scrimmage against the LA Rams in 2 games this year. 534 yards in 2 games. If you're just counting the rushing yards, he had 255 against them in that game on the road in LA and got another 205 in the playoffs. Like how often do you see one player put up that type of dominance against the exact same defense in the exact same season? It's rare. It's a rarity, but that just speaks to how good Saquon Barkley is and how uber talented he is and how generational he is. Because it just speaks to his talent. I mean, when I heard he was going to the Philadelphia Eagles, I said, Lord have mercy. You're giving Saquon Barkley the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line. And look what happened. 2,000 yards rushing. One of the great running back seasons in the history of the league. All because you gave the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line an opportunity to block for Saquon Barkley. And it all just meshed and came together. Saquon Barkley did his thing on the offense, was just doing it, just having his way. I mean, even though the LA Rams was rushing the quarterback and they were hitting the daylights out of Jalen Hurts all game, they couldn't stop the run. The Philadelphia Eagles did a great job of using that aggression of the LA Rams defensive line against them, and they was able to gash them, play in and play out, and you saw the end results. And honestly, I feel like that was the key, one of the biggest keys to Philly winning that game. And also, hey, to the Falcons fans out there, you got some that still kill the Bijan Robinson pick. You got some that love the Bijan Robinson pick, but the ones that kill the Bijan Robinson pick, Jalen Carter is the reason why people kill the Bijan Robinson pick. I don't, but Jalen Carter is showing you why. Sometimes you might want to go to defensive player because Jalen Carter's a first team All-Pro, one of the best defensive tackles in all of football, and you saw it. You've seen it in the playoffs. You saw it in that game against the Rams, 3rd and 2, humongous 3rd down sack on a 3rd and 2.
Right.
To put them in that 4th down situation where they just had to make a play to stay in the game and they couldn't do it. So that Philly I said that Philly defense in a way was going to help carry them potentially to an NFC Championship, to a Super Bowl, and that's what they're doing. And Washington has to figure out a way to keep Jalen Carter away from Jaden Daniels because if Jalen Carter, if guys like Jalen Carter, Zach Bond, Jordan Davis, even and Nolan Smith, if they are getting to Jaden Daniels and they are controlling the tempo and they're dictating how they want to play, Washington will not win this game. Washington has to come up with a game plan built around Jalen Carter and neutralizing him because Jalen Carter is one of those defensive tackles that can single-handedly take over a game. That is how good he is.
I agree. And I think, unfortunately for Cosme, losing Cosme will hurt. But I do think for Washington, they're just going to have to come up with something. Cliff Kingsbury's going to have to come up with something just to fool the Eagles defense. But it's going to be hard because, again, that Eagles defense, they're loaded. But if you look at the game very closely, though, when they got Kieran Williams involved, maybe I think it's time that we started incorporating Brian Robinson Jr. more and more. So
Yes.
I would like to see Brian Robinson Jr. get some more opportunities to run the football. The last game, BRF. I'm sorry, Champ. You want to say something?
Oh, let's not forget, speaking of Jalen Carter, number one, can you imagine Jalen Carter and Grady Jarrett? That would have been something special, but we do have Bijan. He's doing damn good. I want to quote something because this is what I've been trying to find the entire time he's trying to talk about Jalen Carter. The great Aaron Donald said that his replacement in the NFL is Jalen Carter. Now, we all know that Aaron Donald is arguably the greatest defensive tackle of all time. Let's just be real. He is the greatest defensive tackle of all time.
Yeah. I think he's the greatest DT of all time, and I think he's the second greatest defensive lineman of all time, only behind Reggie White.
Yes. And so for you to get praise from the great Aaron Donald, that's something to be beheld. But that's all I had to add. But that's what I was trying to find because I was trying to make sure that wasn't an alternative fact. You know how a lot of these social media sites are.
Right. But I do think it's going to be a hell of a game Sunday afternoon. I think one team expected to win, though, in Philadelphia with that fan base, and the other unexpected, taking to heights that I never thought they imagined. Only thing I hated, though, before the game, did y'all see the photo of the Washington jerseys and all the paraphernalia around the Rocky statue?
Oh, you know that's a curse, right?
I know it's a curse.
Yeah, it's a curse. It's a curse.
Why would you do it? Why would you do it?
Don't look.
Not just because of the curse, but why Rocky? Why would you do that?
Yeah, plus you had the old paraphernalia on there. I can understand if it was the new stuff, but look, there's a saying down south. I think you heard of this, BRF. My dad used to tell me this all the time. Don't tug on Superman's cape and don't spit in the wind. It will come back in your face.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, y'all need to pipe down a couple of notches.
That's the thing, man, between me and other Commanders fans. The one thing that they like is humility. Cause I mean, I understand you excited. You haven't been to a conference championship in that long, but it's not over yet. Can we just wait? I mean, but that's the thing with people when they're not used to something, they just jump to conclusions. Next one, BRF. Ravens Bills.
Wow. Lamar. That you can't have that first half, bro. You cannot have that first half. 2 turnovers. I mean, they only got 7 points off of those 2 turnovers, but it's the fact that those 7 points are probably the deciding factor in Buffalo winning that game. Yeah, we can't if you're coming in with the cachet of a Lamar Jackson, all likelihood probably making the first team All Pro, all likelihood winning your 3rd most valuable player award. You can't have that. You can't have that first half. You can't do it. And I was watching a particular podcast and a particular person gloating about how great Josh Allen played in that AFC Championship game. He didn't play that great. He didn't play that great in the AFC Championship game. What Josh Allen did was allow his guys to do what they need to do. He made enough plays to win. He didn't play that great. He just played mistake-free football. Now Lamar Jackson, he redeemed himself for that. He redeemed himself for that first half. With that second half, and throwing what should have been the game-tying touchdown, but Mark Andrews, that's one of them games you forget right there. The fumble on that punch, and then to have that 2-point conversion hit you in the breadbasket, and you drop it like that. Like, shout out to Bills Mafia, by the way. Some people were calling it trolling. I don't think it's trolling from the standpoint Mark Andrews has type 1 diabetes. And the fact that he received death threats after that game, and the fact that the Buffalo Bills were classy enough to donate to a charity that man supports, that relates to him having type 1 diabetes, to donate that kind of money to his charity, that speaks to the level of class that the Buffalo Bills fan base has, and shout out to them. You hear about this like almost once a month with them going out of their way, doing something for a player or doing something for other fans, just showing love. Like, if all fan bases were like the Buffalo Bills fan base, let me tell you, NFL fandom would be a better place if more fan bases were like the Buffalo Bills. But going back to the game though, like I said, the Buffalo Bills defense wasn't all that good either, but they were opportunistic. They were opportunistic in their playmaking. Like I said, the 2 turnovers, forcing quicker passes, getting Lamar Jackson off his spot, forcing passes he didn't want to make. For the most part, really containing the running game a lot, even though Derrick Henry did get hot. For Justice Hill did have a good game, and the limited carry, the touches he got, but Buffalo did a good job of like limiting them and containing that running game, and basically saying, okay, Lamar, if you want to win this game, you're gonna beat us. He almost did, but when you're playing the Baltimore Ravens, that's honestly, even though Lamar Jackson is a much better pocket passer than he's ever been, to beat the Baltimore Ravens, that's kind of the blueprint as far as how you still want to beat them, and that's taking the running game away, because even though Lamar Jackson is a much better pocket passer, a lot of their success in their offense is still predicated on running the ball to set up RPO opportunities, to set up play action opportunities. That offense is still predicated on how they run the football. Buffalo did a good job of limiting that enough to where.
So I'm sorry to interrupt you, BRF. I'm just reading
Go ahead,
this
bro.
report right here. The Cowboys are hiring former Bears head coach Matt Eberflus as their defensive coordinator.
I'm done. I'm through. I'm not even a Cowboys fan, bro. What the hell? What are you doing, Jerry? Jerry,
if y'all think I'm lying, go check out the chat right now.
I don't think you're lying. I'm just being real.
Wow.
You are the greatest. You are the flagship franchise of the NFL, and you cannot do any better than Brian Schottenheimer and Matt Eberflus. You are
the crazy thing.
As Don King once put it, only in America.
Only in America. The crazy thing about it is, when the reports were coming out that Kellen Moore had an opportunity for this, people were killing that. But then Brian Schottenheimer and then Matt Eberflus as your defensive coordinator, he might have had he had a decent defense He had a good defense. Now I'll say this though. That 1 year, a couple years ago, whatever, in Chicago, he had a really good defense in Chicago. I think he had a really good defense 1 year in Indy. But outside of that, no. Like, bro, just no. Oh,
But anyway, go ahead, BRF.
wow. That's just whew. But yeah. Okay, yeah, let's get the train back on the track properly. Let's go back to the Baltimore Buffalo game. But yeah, no, like what I was saying, just like Buffalo was doing a really good job. They did a good job containing the running game, forcing Lamar Jackson to be that guy to beat you in, purely not necessarily play actions or RPOs, but in drop back passing situations. Lamar did hit some throws though, but Buffalo they executed the game plan on defense how they wanted to. And just Sean McDermott, man, he just shout out to him because there was at one point we were talking about him on the hot seat. We were really talking about him being on the hot seat, and he's got this team back to the AFC Championship game. And if you're watching that game against Baltimore and those blitz packages that they were throwing out against Baltimore, knowing when to call them and just executing the blitzes to perfection, getting Lamar off his spot, making him throw early, hitting him, just Sean McDermott deserves a lot of praise for the defensive play calling, especially in that game against Baltimore, because a lot of those plays definitely just it swung the momentum and it swung the tide in their favor, and it ultimately led them get a W. But I will say this though, I see a lot of people kind of killing Lamar for this. Does he deserve blame in this? Absolutely. That first half, you are the face of the franchise. You deserve blame for what you did in that first half. But we don't need to kill him for this, because that second half, he put him in position to win. I mean, it's
that last drive.
That last drive. I mean, they scored the touchdown. It's 27. I think 27-25 right there. I feel like my only complaint is, even though Mark Andrews did drop that pass, running that bootleg, I ultimately still feel like they tried to get cute. They try to get too cute a lot of times around the red zone, and it's like you got 22. You got 22 behind you. You got 6'3", 200. You got all 6'3", 250 pounds of Derrick Henry. Just put him in the put him in a deep just put him in a deep single back, and just hand it to him and let him get steam rolling and go for it. You get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. But I feel like the best plays in those situations probably should have been a Derrick Henry, even though that play. I mean, honestly, that was a really good play call. Running the bootleg to Mark Andrews, he just dropped the pass. So just one of those unfortunate things. But Buffalo just made more plays at the end of the day. And it's crazy because I felt like Baltimore was the better team on both sides of the ball. But Buffalo, that's one of them situations where Buffalo just wasn't hearing it and they wasn't having it. And they went out and they out executed them, played mistake-free football, and it ultimately led to them getting a dub.
BRF, I'm going to ask you this question, perhaps as an extreme statement, but do you think Lamar Jackson's Super Bowl window is closed?
No, it's not closed. I don't think. I'll say this though: it depends on certain moves they make, and I think I've said this. The Super Bowl window is open as long as Todd Monken is his offensive coordinator. The day he leaves, though, you have to find someone on or above his level as a play caller, and that's hard to do because Todd Monken is a hell of a play caller. I'll say this though: this team currently constructed, I'll give it another couple of years so they can keep everybody together. But then you're looking at the idea of Lamar Jackson's money and his cap hits and how that's going to affect bringing people there and having to restructure and having to sign this person to that person. I don't think the window is closed, but it's creaking a little bit, if you know what I'm saying. So I say within the next couple of years, they got to strike. They have to strike once. They got to get one. I'll give it 2, maybe 3 years, but they got to strike. It's starting to close a little bit. They got to strike within the next couple of years.
All right, guys, let's move on and let's make our picks. Washington at Philadelphia. BRF, you decided to go with you got Washington or Philadelphia?
I'm gonna go Philly here because I think this is just another one of those situations where I just think Philly has. I thought Detroit had too many horses for Washington, and Washington went in there and beat them. But I'm looking at the Eagles. I'm looking at a different environment. I'm looking at a different defense, a much better defense than what Detroit possesses. I think Philly's defense is what's going to win this game. I just think they got too many. I think they got too many bulls on the defensive side of the ball. I don't think in this type of scenario they're going to let Washington get away with half the stuff that Detroit let them get away with. So I'm going to go 27. I'm going to go 24-21, and I'm going to go Philadelphia Eagles winning the NFC.
Undisputed world champ.
Commander coming through. I'm going with the Commanders once again. Look, I know that they're playing on house money at this point. At this point, although their star offensive line, he's hurt, you can best believe Cliff Kingsbury is going to put out all the stops on that offensive side of the ball. And they're going to strike hard and they're going to strike them early. So, and they're going to have to beat them with that running game. You have to pull out all the stops. So I really think that we are looking at the first rookie to go to the Super Bowl, and that will be Jaden Daniels. And if that happens, how ironic for the president of football operations to be none other than the great Doug Williams, the first African-American quarterback to win when the Washington Commanders went by another name, which we would never say. So I got to go with Jaden Daniels. But like I said, man, momentum matters. Momentum matters. And although I know that they have a hell of a defense up there in Philadelphia, they are missing Nakobe Dean, and replacing him is hard, even though you have a plethora of pass rushers. So I have to momentum. You went in there, you beat the number one. You went in there, you beat the number 1 seed. Now let's go in there and beat number 2. So hail Commanders. We salute you. I'm going with the Commanders.
The Eagles have the number 1 passing defense in the NFL, and they also have a top 10 rushing defense. Washington is 30th in the NFL. My major concern is if we don't shut down Saquon Barkley, there's going to be a problem. I think the best way for Washington's defense is just going to have to put Jalen Hurts in a really difficult situation and also take away his running ability as well, too. And again, he is dealing with a leg injury himself. So we don't know how healthy he's going to be, but I still believe he's going to be good enough to play. Then you look at Washington. Look, turnovers. You had no turnovers at Tampa, and you had no turnovers in Detroit. So as long as you take care of the football, again, even though this will be different because, again, you're playing in colder weather in Philadelphia compared to Tampa Bay and compared to Detroit, which is indoors, I think considering the fact that you've played there in cold weather before, after all, you play outside in Landover, Maryland, you should be comfortable enough to take care of the football. I just think for Washington, stay aggressive. Go on 4th down, play smart, be aggressive when needed to. And I just think if you just cut down, just again with the turnovers, and if you could find a way, I think another X factor, Durant's Armstrong. I mentioned in Detroit, champ, how he would, what type of impact that he would have. If he can have the same type of impact he has against the Eagles, I feel very confident. Deron Payne, this is a big game for you because we gave you your money and we're very happy to have you. Now you got to repay us. Dan Quinn is going to have to figure out how to stop the run. This has been an issue for him not just this season, but also last year with the Dallas Cowboys. So you got to find a way to stop the run. But I like the fact that Washington is the underdog in this one. I still have Philly. I got Philly in this one 27-17. And yes, because of the curse. So that does play a role, a factor in this as well. But I got Philly winning this one. But like I said before, win or lose, Washington, the future is bright. Do not think that this season was a fluke. And if you think it's a fluke, wait till 2025 and moving forward. Because the amount of money we saved up, as you mentioned, Champ, in cap space, and with the new ownership, Washington, there's nowhere to go but up. And of course, guys, next game, Bills at Chiefs. I got the Chiefs. BRF, you picked the Chiefs because of Patrick Mahomes and that team. As Ric Flair always says, to be the man, you gotta beat the man.
Exactly. Exactly.
And this is the day that the man gets beat. I'm going with Josh Allen.
Why so?
This is your time. This is your time. You're a team of destiny. You figured out how to use James Cook. You figured out how to use the players around you. You don't have to force feed Stephon Diggs and deal with his diva attitude going into a game. You don't have any distractions. And you have proven you can shut down an offense. You have proven it. You have proven it. So guess what? And an X factor for that team will be Von Miller. So he is in the playoffs and he's doing his thing. So the king gets dethroned this year. And we will see a rematch of the 1991 Super Bowl between the Washington Commanders and the Buffalo Bills.
Au contraire, Champ, are you concerned about the refs?
Look, am I concerned? Yes. But the Bills have proven that they can play mistake-free football. They have proven that. They played it last week. And like I said, let James cook. You know you're going into a place where they have some horrible weather. Weather's not going to be on your side, but you know how to play in it because you play in Buffalo. So go in there. Don't make Josh Allen do too much. Hand that ball to that Georgia Bulldog and let him run against that Kansas City Chiefs defense and see if you can soften them up. Get that play action going. Run right out. The best way and I'm going to tell you this from my amateur fight boxing experience. The best way to beat the bully is go out there and hit him right in the mouth because that's going to shake him. Don't hit him light either. You go in there, you hit him with everything you got. Even if it is in the first round. Go out there and hit him with everything you got. And I think that they will come out on top. It will be the Bills and the Commanders in the Super Bowl this year. We will have the Steve Young of this generation against Lamar Jackson Jr. in the Super Bowl.
Could have used John Elway with Josh Allen, but
yeah, I like Steve Young more. Steve Young more.
I just like the John Elway one because again, John Elway's mobility, the arm, and Allen when I think he's more kind of like Elway, but I can understand the Steve Young way. But fellas,
I can see the Elway comparison too with the arm talent. I can see the Elway comparison.
Yeah, but fellas, let's move on. You know what? Let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys again. Let's talk about just when you thought that just Cowboy fans, you know, I'm gonna get on them, not on Thomas because Thomas from On the Hot Podcast, diehard Dallas Cowboy fan. At least he's objective. I will give him credibility for that. Dallas Cowboy fans, y'all make me sick. And y'all kept talking, oh, we gonna get Prime. We gonna get Deion Sanders. Oh, okay, we gonna get Pete Carroll. We gonna get all these coaches. Brian Schottenheimer as your head coach and as your defensive coordinator, Matt Eberflus. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. You ain't going anywhere with Jerry Jones running the show. Okay. Jerry might call you right now. I'll give you a 1 year, $2 million contract if you coach this team. We can go hang out at the crib for beer and nachos. Even though you're gonna have to sell your Atlanta Falcons and become a Dallas Cowboy, even though Mama Chad would be happy to see you wear some Cowboys gear. But Jerry Jones, man, like I said before, man, he ain't changing. When you reach a certain important age, you ain't changing. And he's going to continue to hire yes men and surround himself with yes people. Stephen Jones was the same person that talked him out of drafting Johnny Manziel. So, champ, I'm going to let you go. The flow is yours.
Jerry. Come on, man. You know what? You know who the Cowboys fans sound like?
What?
You sound like Laker fans. Every year, we're going to get this free agent. We're going to get that free agent. We're going to get this guy. We're going to get that guy. And we won't get nobody. We're going to hire this coach. We're going to get that coach. We're going to trade LeBron. We're going to get Anthony Davis some help. Won't get no one. So you have officially become the Los Angeles Lakers of the NFL. A lot of delusion, a lot of empty promises, a lot of sad excuses and false hopes high. That was ridiculous. And the thing is, you have to ask yourself this. If you had all of these superstar coaches available, even Robert Saleh, before he went back to San Francisco, before he went back to the Bay, he was available. If all of these superstar coaches was available and none of them chose to go there, it says a lot about their franchise more than it does the coaches. And look, I understand we got to give Brian Schottenheimer some grace. We got to give him a little bit of time. But the thing is, it's not like they went out and hired a Todd Monken, who was a successful offensive coordinator, like very successful to the point where, yes, this is the greatest that we've ever seen Lamar Jackson, or this was the greatest that we it's not like we've seen that level. He's a good offensive coordinator, but not one of these guys like a Todd Monken, like a Ben Johnson, like a Zach Robinson, not none of those guys, even a Kellen Moore. He's not one of those guys that, oh my God, he's going to be special as a head coach when he comes to. No. He's good. He getting the job done. But other than that, it's like, all right. Because the first thing I was like, first thing I think about when I think about Brian Schottenheimer, I'm like, well, you ain't your daddy. So, I don't have, if it was Marty that got hired, God rest his soul, I would have clapped. Jerry, you did your thing on this one. But it's not Marty. If Marty would have went to Dallas, Dallas would have had themselves something. Like I said, unfortunately, great Marty Schottenheimer passed away. One hell of a coach, will be in the Hall of Fame one day, over 200 wins as a coaches, changed the culture for a lot of teams. If it was Marty that had gotten hired, I would clap for the Cowboys. But unfortunately, it was not. And Brian Schottenheimer's resume really doesn't impress me. I'm not really impressed. It's like when I look at Aaron Glenn, I say I'm impressed. When I look at Robert Saleh with his record with the defenses, although his teams were not that good, I say I'm impressed. When I look at Ben Johnson, I say I'm impressed. When I look at Antoine Randall and the job that he did with the wide receivers up there in Detroit, I say I'm impressed. When I look at Brian Schottenheimer, even with the job, the only time where I have seen him that offense really shine was like 2008 with the Jets when they was top 10 in offense, and last year when Dak had one of his best seasons. Other than that, I'm really not in awe. So it's like, you hired him for what? This is the same thing. This is like history repeating itself. You had a real high-profile coach when you had Wade Phillips there in the early 2000s, and you made Jason Garrett the highest-paid offensive coordinator in the league. And lo and behold, when Wade Phillips got fired, who's coaching in the XFL right now, he got fired. Lo and behold, who did you hire? Jason Garrett, who didn't do anything but clap his way through a whole coaching tenure, and you was afraid to fire him. So history has just repeated itself. The only difference is we're not as impressed with Brian Schottenheimer as we were with Jason Garrett. At least with Jason Garrett, you can say we're darn. He did at least provide a lot of high-powered offense for this team with Tony Romo at the helm. That offense was high-powered. But with Brian Schottenheimer, I'm looking like, I don't know what. Like I said, I'm not even a Cowboys fan, but it's kind of weird when you see teams like them and the Lakers, who were perennial winners, who their whole history says we're winners, make dumb hirings like this. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And like I said, if all of these superstar coaches was lined up, Robert Saleh, just to name a few, you even interviewed your own offensive coordinator in Kellen Moore. He even got interviewed. Not even him. So, Jerry, look, I hope that you know what you're doing. Look, I hope that you know what you're doing, because from what it looks like, you don't anymore. And look, like I said, you're not really making these coaching hires the way you need to. You're not attracting free agents like you used to. You're not making the big moves. The last big move that you made, shout out to PSP, was the Amari Cooper trade. When you made that trade, since then, you really haven't made any moves. You knew you needed a running back this offseason. You didn't make that move. So it's going to be interesting to see what you do in this upcoming draft. Because if you do so much, if wipe your hands sideways, you're going to get criticized. And it's going to be a whole nother year all over again. Because I don't see you going anywhere, and I don't see you going anywhere fast. And look, the Eagles have already caught and passed you. The Washington Commanders have already caught and passed you, with a hell of a lot less talent, by the way. And to their credit, you can say what you will about the New York Giants, but guess what? They have a hell of a lot of building blocks on that team that can help them win in the future. When you talk about Malik Neighbors, Sexy Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, Tavion Thibodeau, guys like that. They got a lot of guys on that team that are hella talented. Only thing they need is a trigger man, that being a quarterback. So don't be surprised if they draft Cam Ward next year and you find the Cowboys in 4th place. Ineptitude is the key word in Dallas at this point. Because when you go down from being able to hire superstar head coaches like a Bill Parcells, like a Mike McCarthy, and you have to hire your offensive coordinator because nobody will come there and coach for this team. It used to be the dream job. Going to America's team used to mean something. It used to mean something. But now, much like the Las Vegas Raiders, hopefully Pete Carroll can turn around. Much like that organization, you're hiring anybody you can in-house because you can pull the strings. And it's disgusting. And you're about to be a laughingstock in a minute. Especially if this investment in Dak does not pay off. Because it's going to be a long, long time before you see a quarterback class like you just saw this past year in Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels and company. and you see another quarterback class like this year, when you think about Jackson Dart, Sador Sanders, and Cam Ward. This is an embarrassment. Like I said, Cowboys used to stand for winning, and more winning, and looking good while doing it, much like the Lakers. But it's unfortunately, they have become the football version of the Lakers, and the fans are just as delusional. We're going to get this guy. We're going to get that guy. You didn't get anything. You got Brian Schottenheimer. And I don't want to hear, and when week one come around and y'all win one game, I don't want to hear nothing about them boys unless you go back to the playoffs and get to an NFC Championship. Because guess what? Much like the Pittsburgh Steelers, just like them, playoffs are not the standard for the Dallas Cowboys. Super Bowls are. Let that sink in.
Dallas Cowboys went from America's team to now all of a sudden a reality TV show called Basketball Housewives. That's how it seems like to me. BRF?
Man. Every time NFL season going on, my favorite meme is when they Photoshop all the quarterbacks' heads together and they have them looking in that top, just seeing if y'all still them boys. But that being said, man, I don't know what to say. Like, I really don't. Like, you know how I feel about them. It's like like every time you say the Dallas Cowboys, like, when you talk about Mike McCarthy and all that stuff, and I was just like, man, I don't care. It's like it's like why it's like no, like this is not surprising at all. Like, why should we expect any more from this franchise? Why should we expect any more from them? I mean, PSP pretty much hit the nail on the head. They ain't winning nothing with Jerry Jones as the owner and the general manager. They ain't winning nothing because Jerry Jones he's gonna hire people he wants as opposed to people he needs. And Brian Schottenheimer has a long resume as far as like his being an offensive coordinator, whether it's college, whether it's the pros. But even still, even having a long resume, that doesn't necessarily mean you're the right guy for the job. And then Matt Eberflus, fresh off of getting fired by the Chicago Bears, just like what I mean, and even as a defensive coordinator, I mean, he's had brief success, but not it's Matt Eberflus' resume should not warrant the opportunity of being the defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys. That just shows how low they've fallen when you're having to hire guys like Brian Schottenheimer and Matt Eberflus for the head coach and defensive coordinator positions. That just shows how far they've fallen, because before, Dallas was that franchise. They could just throw money at anybody, and because they was the Dallas Cowboys, more than likely they're going to take the bait and they're going to go. The problem is we've seen this dog and pony show a little bit too much and way too many times, and people are getting sick of it. And like, honestly, that's ultimately probably why Dion didn't take the job. He know Jerry gonna be in his ill 24/7 before trying to tell him what to do. And Coach Prime, with his ego and with his cachet, he ain't standing for that. He ain't gonna stand for that. That's why ultimately he didn't take the Cowboy job. He not gonna take an owner to try to tell him what to do. When Dion is, even though he's had a brief career as a college head coach, just the atmosphere he's going to want to cultivate, bringing a winning culture to Dallas, like what he did at Jackson State and what he's starting to do at Buffalo, he's going to want to try to cultivate that. That's why I said I don't blame Deion Sanders one bit for not going to the Dallas Cowboys, because because I promise you, even if he went to Dallas and he won some games and he started to change the culture, ultimately it's still going to be, well, Jerry Jones had the nerve and had the gut instincts to go and find the Deion Sanders and bring him in and have him install his culture into the franchise, and not giving Deion any credit, but giving Jerry Jones the credit for putting Deion Sanders on. And like, no. We ain't having that. Because I know how ESPN like to spin that stuff, particularly when the Dallas Cowboys are successful. It's Jerry Jones getting credit for finding the right coach, not the right coach bringing the right mentality and attitude to the Dallas Cowboys. I just know how that would have been spent, and we ain't having it. I'm tired of talking about this franchise. They get on my nerves. I'm not even a Cowboys fan, and they get on my damn nerves. Just every year, almost it's in the point where it's every week. It's something with them. Like they looking at this person, or they're talking about bringing this person into free agency, or this coach has so many years left on this contract. What are they going to do? Are they going to re-up with him? Are they going to try to renege with him, renegotiate, and all this other stuff? I'm tired of hearing about the Dallas Cowboys because they don't do anything impressive anymore. It's like they're not. It's like I don't know, man. It's just they need to do some. They need to do some soul searching, especially in that front office, and fast. Otherwise, they're just going to stay being the. I hate to call them an irrelevant powerhouse, but that's what they are. They are an irrelevant powerhouse when it comes to being mainstream in the national. When it comes to being mainstream in the world of sports, are they still a powerhouse as far as being a mainstream? Absolutely, because we talk about them, but they're irrelevant. They are absolutely irrelevant, and until Jerry Jones just lets it go, we're gonna keep doing this year in and year out because they don't do nothing impressive anymore. They're just pressed.
What the hell they gonna do as far as soul searching and stuff? What, Hooters? That's the best type of soul searching they're gonna do. They're gonna go for wings and beer. What type of soul searching are they gonna do? They're gonna exchange exchange Thanksgiving meals and Christmas cards and all that other stuff. That's what they're gonna
We
do.
said it. We said it though. We know what they need to do. It's just a matter of if they're gonna have the nerve to do it. We know what they need to do. Will they do it?
No. Not at this
Exactly.
time too. Not at this particular time. Jerry ain't gonna do that. Jerry's like, look, I'm still gonna collect my $6-8 billion. This franchise worth a ton of money. I'd be a damn fool if I turned that down. So guess what? Even though I would love to win a Super Bowl, but I still want to do things my way. And the worst thing, and I said this, the worst thing that ever happened to the Dallas Cowboys was when Jerry Jones fired Jimmy Johnson, replaced him with Barry Switzer, and won the Super Bowl. That gave Jerry the validation. I don't need a great head coach. I don't need a great GM. I don't need all the great ingredients. I'm going to do it my way. And he won. And guess what? He's been doing it his way for 30 years, and you've only managed to win 4 playoff games. So let that sink in. Let's sink in that every team in that division has been to a conference championship game, and you haven't since 95. I was 2 years old. Y'all were at least 7 or 10 years old at that time.
I was 8 years old in 1995. I was in third grade.
I turned 10 in 95.
So that goes to show you just how long it's been since the Super Bowl. And Jerry, man, look, Jerry is a great businessman, but Jerry, I don't know what you've been drinking. Either you've been on some Don Julio or something. By the way, Jerry, don't even think about entertaining yourself with that Don Julio Popeyes sandwich. That's a story for another day. Don't entertain yourself into that. Go ahead. Go, say it. No, say it.
Good. I'm good.
I may try that.
Only thing I've been seeing, everybody been holding that damn ball on their damn head every time they have Don Julio. You know, so what the hell they gonna do now? They can put the chicken sandwich on one side and damn Don Julio on the other side. what the hell? I just gotta ask that question. You know, Popeye, that is some if you want to know my thoughts on that, you know, go to the Boondocks and look up Uncle Ruckus and you'll see my opinion on that at this point in time, because I ain't never seen
that man Uncle Ruckus, no relation.
That is some powerful stuff right there, and I ain't never seen. I mean, like I said, everybody got that damn box. We didn't do that back in the day. You know, I hate to sound like the bitter old man, but we didn't do that back in the day. You hold that damn bottle, in your head. So you go hold the bottle on one head, you gonna have chicken sandwich on the side of your ear, act like you're on the phone. What I don't know what that's gonna be. That is gonna be an interesting deal to see. And yeah, it's January. I'm back on my diet. I can't eat no chicken sandwich right now. So that's gonna be interesting. I can't wait to see is they gonna dip the tequila in the chicken or what? I don't know what they gonna do. That is a very I ain't never look. I can look. If Modelo and Popeyes had teamed up, chicken and beer. I mean, chicken and beer always go good together.
That Ludacris album was fire back in the day, though.
Exactly, and chicken and beer always go good. And chicken and beer always go good together, especially when it's spicy. So, if they would have teamed up, okay. But you put tequila. I don't even know if you can drink it. I can't even in my heyday, I couldn't drink no tequila behind no damn chicken. And you go be calling Earl for many days. You gonna be calling Earl many days. And if you don't know where Earl is, you're gonna be going out. You do that if you want to. Eat your Popeyes sandwich and drink you some tequila. You gonna go outside. You gonna be feeding the animals before it's all said and done. So I don't know what to say on that one.
Fellas, let's talk about Pete Carroll to the Las Vegas Raiders. Signed a 3-year deal. What do you think about it? I think this is a good move, though, for Pete Carroll to go to the Raiders. You moved on from Antonio Pierce. Pete Carroll doesn't matter regardless of age. And by the way, there was some highlights of him throwing the football a little bit. But Pete Carroll, look, this is a great hire for Mark Davis. He's won on the collegiate, on the professional level. He's energetic. I think he's going to do his part to help out the organization. Shout outs to Tom Brady, because, again, we all know he's part owner of the Raiders. So I think bringing in a guy like a Pete Carroll does a lot, especially with the culture. Unfortunately for them, they don't have like a top 3 pick in the draft. But if they can move up in the draft, trade up in the draft to get them a Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, I kind of like it for the Raiders. And I think if they can make some moves, I think this is going to be interesting. And, of course, it's the AFC West. It's still going to be Kansas City. Denver, you have to strongly consider because of their defense. And now, finally, they have a quarterback in Bo Nix. As for the Chargers, yes, Justin Herbert is still there. Jim Harbaugh's there. The Chargers had the number 1 defense in the NFL. Khalil Mack is still staying. But Justin Herbert is coming off a bad performance against the Houston Texans in the playoffs. As for the Raiders, it's only going to take them some time. But I think this is I think this is an A move to get Pete Carroll. And like I said before, a head coach like a Pete Carroll is going to go to a place where they don't have enough leverage. Jerry Jones, I said it. I know I talk about the Cowboys, but there was no way that Pete Carroll is going to go to the Cowboys, man. I'm happy for Pete Carroll. He's in Vegas. Hopefully he does something with this organization. I like this move. This is an excellent move. Champ, your thoughts?
Hey, I'm happy that the Las Vegas Raiders finally got their stuff together and hired a legitimate head coach. Not nobody within that organization going out and getting you a good head coach. And you know what? It's the perfect time for you to have a guy like a Pete Carroll. Look, Pete Carroll is the only coach outside of Prime that can relate to young people every single day. Pete Carroll can relate to a young person. He could talk to a young person. And especially with him being a teacher at USC still. So, I mean, he can relate to a young person. So with the team that they're going to have to build up and the team that they're going to have to push out on the field, you're going to have to get a lot of young guys. And you're going to have to get Pete Carroll a general manager, much like he had up there in Seattle, so that he can be able to coach these guys up. Because remember, look, all of those guys that they had up there in the Legion of the Boom wasn't first rounders. Remember, Richard Sherman wasn't drafted to, I think, the 5th. So a lot of those guys that became great were diamonds in the rough before they became who they were. So if you get some guys in there that can draft well and your scouting departments is in order, you can do something with the Raiders. And look, I love seeing this. This is the most star-studded division as far as coaching is concerned in the league. You got every coach in that division has a championship pedigree, whether that be in college or in the pro. And in Pete Carroll's case and Harbaugh's case, they have cachet in the pro and in college. So all of them have a championship pedigree. All of them have championships, whether that be college or the pro. And for people who are saying, well, this would have been a good move back in 2012, did you not see Jim Harbaugh coach this year? It wasn't like Pete Carroll got pushed out and he was having losing seasons. He was still winning. In fact, he helped Geno Smith revive his career before he left. And Pete Carroll is not one of these superstar hirings that has been out of the league very, very long and you're going to bring him back for that last hurrah. No, Pete Carroll has only been out of the league 1 year. 1 year. And now he comes back and pick up right with, and he's been close to the game. He's been doing a lot of interviews with Richard Sherman. He's been on campus, teaching and everything like that. Like I said, can no coach outside of, I believe, Coach Prime can relate to a young person better than Pete Carroll. And I think Pete Carroll's going to do wonders with this team. Now, is he going to be allowed to see it through? That's another question for another day. Because we all know the Las Vegas Raiders, they're a very impatient yet futile franchise. They want you to get it done, but they want you to get it done fast. And a lot of times, the microwave stories ain't what they cracked up to be.
BRF.
I like this move on two fronts, and it's mainly from the side of Pete Carroll. With him being a defensive mind for one, he's always been more of a defensive mind when it comes to the game of football, and also his mentality, like he's a player's coach. Mm-hmm. He's a player's coach. He's always been a player's coach. Like he understands the balance though, which is why he was successful so long in Seattle. He understands the balance. He understands when to kind of, pep your players up, when to help them as far as their motivation, when to get them on track, but also having enough of that cachet, having enough of that mentality as far as like the disciplining and all that. He was able to stay in Seattle as long as he did. You have to have an understanding and you have to be able to manage both sides of it as far as being his player's coach, but still having to be a disciplinarian to keep everybody in line to where nobody's getting too big of a head. That way you're not disrupting the chemistry. And I think Pete Carroll definitely brings that understanding and awareness to the Vegas Raiders, which is why I actually kind of like the hire, because I feel like one of the biggest things we'll see as far as Max Crosby goes. Is this a move to keep? Will this move preserve Max Crosby wanting to stay in Vegas? It's very possible because, like I said, Pete Carroll's a defensive mind, and we always talk about the Legion of Boom with those Seattle Seahawks defenses. Let's not remember. Let's not forget. The Seattle Seahawks. They had some pretty lethal. They had some pretty lethal defensive lines with those defenses, particularly with Dan Quinn being the DC and basically creating that concept of the Leo linebacker, which is basically you have the right to free roam. You do what you want. If the call says play, if the call says drop in the coverage. But a lot of times with the Leo, they want you to rush the passer. So a lot of those times, if the scenario calls for you to get after the quarterback, you get after the quarterback. But I mean, he had really good defensive lines, and particularly the defensive ends with the Seattle Seahawks. And let's face it, when Max Crosby is healthy, he is by 3 miles the Vegas Raiders' best defensive player. So this is definitely a move that could possibly keep him there, because Max Crosby is going to be one of the hardest trade market targets this NFL offseason. Let's keep it all the way 100. Max Crosby is going to be sought after in the trade market. So if I'm Pete Carroll, the first thing I do, I'm getting in Max Crosby's ear and I'm reminding him, hey, I'm a defensive coach. You tell me what I need to do for this franchise and how to put y'all in the best position to win, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to try to do it. So you hope a move like this keeps Max Crosby there, because I guarantee he probably already got about 10 teams on speed dial waiting to call him and be like, hey, what do you let us know what we want and we got you. So I like the move just from the mentality standpoint and just from the idea that Pete Carroll is a good coach and has cachet and can instantly come in and bring stability to that organization, to those players. I mean, let's face it. I know we hear the stories about the Super Bowl and that call, but outside of that, all we pretty much know and heard about is, Pete Carroll's a player's guy. He's a player's coach, and I think honestly, a team like Vegas, who doesn't have a lot going for themselves and might just be lacking confidence to go out there and do it week in and week out, this is where Pete Carroll comes into play. This is why I think I like the move, because he can find a way to motivate, but stay on them, but also motivate them, but just remind them, hey, you got to the pros for a reason. You got me. Let's get out here and let's show people how it's done. Let me help you. Let me show you what I feel like is best for you in order to succeed in 2025. So I like the move because I think Pete Carroll's going to bring some stability and hopefully some motivation and some confidence to a Vegas Raiders team who, let's face it, they can't, after the way that season played out, they can't have any motivation or confidence right now. This is why I think Pete Carroll, probably the right way to go here.
Well, they have nowhere to go but up, because we thought Antonio Pierce was going to be that guy, and he did a good job last season. But sadly to say, it didn't work out. And God knows Josh McDaniels. I mean, come on now. I mean, I knew that he was horrible in Denver, but the Raiders, you brought him in anyway, and now he's back in New England. Now as the offensive coordinator. Hey, that's the job for you if you're Josh McDaniels. Don't go anywhere else. That's the job for you. Because in the words of Stone Cold Steve Austin, don't trust anybody. We don't trust you when it comes to becoming a head coach. You better stay put in New England as an offensive coordinator, because we saw what you did with Vegas and we know what you did in Denver, and it was horrible. So just look at Champ's face and you'll see it for yourself. I mean, look, that right there is just perfect explanation.
Damn. That's Professor Plump's son right there. That is Professor Crip saying.
Hercules.
All right, fellas. Before we move on to entertainment, what are y'all thoughts about Robert Saleh going to San Francisco back as the defensive coordinator? Hey, New York, it ain't always what it seems. And look, man, he had to get the hell up out of in New York after what happened with him and Aaron Rodgers, and after what I've had to gone through with Zach Wilson and everything else. Look, I need something to rejuvenate my career. I need to elevate my chances of becoming a head coach. Why not let me go back to being the DC in San Francisco? And oh, by the way, 49ers fans, do not fire Kyle Shanahan. If you do that, you be a fool, and you're gonna have to start completely back from scratch, man. So I'm happy for Robert Saleh. Go back to your old organization. You need something to rejuvenate your career. I think this is a good move. Kyle Shanahan still staying on put. He can still be responsible for calling the plays on offense. Only we don't know what they're gonna do with Brock Purdy. I think Brock Purdy is a good enough quarterback. I don't see him as a franchise type of guy. Deebo Samuel, you need to have a bounce back year. You need to have a bounce back year after the type of season that you had. Brandon Ayuk, we expect him to come back. Injuries played a huge factor for the 49ers. I'm assuming that the guys are going to get healthy, and hopefully they can address some things in the draft. But I do love this for Robert Saleh because you need a rejuvenation. You need something to help you with your career. New York ain't always for everybody. There's no shame in that. You back at home. You back at home. So I'm happy for Robert Saleh. Hey, he has the people love him, the organization there. I think this is a good move. As for the New York Jets, Aaron Glenn, you've been there. You used to play for the New York Jets. Wish you nothing but the best. But it's gonna be hard for you to win in that division. But fortunately for you, you are a defensive minded guy, and you do got some pieces on the defensive side of the football field. But I love it for Robert Saleh. What are y'all thoughts?
Oh,
Don't be surprised if the San Francisco 49ers are top 5 in defense again. Just don't be shocked. I mean, Robert Saleh has too good of a defensive mind to let what played out with the Jets kind of dictate the rest of his career. I think it's a good move for him. Don't be shocked if the San Francisco 49ers just jump back to the elite in terms of total defenses because Robert Saleh has that type of mind, and the 49ers still got players on that side of the ball. I mean, they still have they still have Fred Warner. They still have Nick Bosa. I think they still have Dre Greenlaw. I'm not sure. I think they still have him. So I mean, it's not like they ain't got players. They still got players down in defense. Don't be surprised if they're top 5 again. I think it's good. It's a good move for everybody involved, and particularly Robert Saleh. I think like you said, the rejuvenation I think is going to help him tremendously, and I think he's going to put the 49ers back on the map defensively as being one of the elite units in the league.
Champ?
You know what's so fun about San Francisco? Not only is their players coming back next year, they got over $70 million in cap space next year.
There you go.
And they pick a top 11. So they like Alka-Seltzer. They're going to get better fast.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all remember that commercial, right? Get yourself some Alka-Seltzer, you feel better fast. That's exactly how the 49ers like. And look, they drafted well this year. Ricky Pearsall is exactly what we thought he was. Even with a pew-pew wound. Went out there and shined. Now you got the draft coming up, and you got almost $70 million in cap space. And you need another pass rusher.
Yes, you do. And there's a boatload of them available.
And so, don't be surprised. Don't be surprised. Because John Lynch has been known to make huge moves, has he not? So don't be surprised if Max Crosby becomes the bookend, the other end for Nick Bosa. Don't be surprised. After all, they did go and get Christian McCaffrey from the Carolina Panthers for a second and a fifth. They did draft Jennings in the draft. They did draft Ricky Pearsall in the draft. So don't be surprised if Max Crosby ends up a 49er next year and that pass rush ends up even better than it is. And look, structure is everything. When you bring one of your cousins back home, or, bring one of your brothers back home, to help out, pops and moms, the house gets in order a little bit quicker. Because guess what? Kyle Shanahan ain't got to take that responsibility as much as he did, and that was on him this year. And, the defense was good, but not as good as it could have been. So, yeah, I think it's good that he went back to San Francisco. And my advice to coaches would be this. And this is not just for black coaches. Before I let come out of my mouth. This is for every coach. Make sure, and because if y'all heard the interview with Nick Saban, he said he didn't do his research properly on Miami when he took that job. And that's like he faltered during that process. Make sure you know what you're getting yourself into before you leave your house. Before you leave the safety net of being a coordinator where ain't nobody looking at you, other than, the defense or the offense. Make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. Make sure you know the ins and outs of that organization and everything. Because guess what? These coaches in New York have not lasted for over 2 to 3 years. Nobody has lasted long other than Rex Ryan and Bill Parcells. Nobody's last long. Todd Bowles did not last that long. Look what he's down there doing in Tampa Bay. Yes, Todd Bowles was the head coach of the New York Jets at one time.
Yes,
and he just won 2 straight division titles. Yeah. So make sure you know exactly what you're getting yourself into before you go to these teams. Because those wins and loss records, they go on your tombstone, quote unquote. So make sure before you leave the safety net of your defensive coordinator position or what have you, make sure you do your research on these teams. And don't be surprised if Robert Salem goes off after he does another stint with the 49ers and does the same thing that Todd Bowles is doing right about now. And that's have a winning season or 2 and win a playoff game. Because Todd Bowles, they criticized him very, very greatly when he was in New York. Look what he's doing now in the NFC South.
Fellas, Aaron Glenn, what are your thoughts about Aaron Glenn going to the Jets?
I can get with it because the New York Jets, I like it. It's a full circle moment because the New York Jets are the franchise that drafted Aaron Glenn in the first place. So it's a full circle moment for him. I want to see him as far as like what he's gonna do with somebody like Sauce Gardner. I want to see his impact on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, they're gonna get they'll get Jermaine Johnson back from injury. They got they got pieces. They got Quentin Williams. They got pieces on the defense. They got pieces on the defense that I think Aaron Glenn should be very excited to come in and work with right out of the gate. It's just a matter of who is he going to bring in as far as managing the offense. Because you have to look at who you're going to draft. You have to look at, are you going to be able to make any moves to add maybe a piece or so in the event that Devontae Adams is leaving, which I'm pretty sure he's all but gone with the Jets. So you got to get the right coaching personnel for the offensive side of the ball to make this work. So I like him coming in after the fiasco, after the hell that was 2024. I like him coming in after last year. He could come in with the fresh start, put his stamp on things, and get it started early, and he'll have the draft. So I like the Aaron Glenn move because he's coming in now after the fiasco.
Champ.
I like that hiring, and I think it's good. Look, give him some time. 2 years is not going to get the job done. 2 years is not going to get the job done. This is at least a 3-year building progress. Especially if you don't get an offensive line and you're just hell bent on trying to make Aaron Rodgers work. So this is not a 2-year deal. Y'all need to give him at least 3 years in order to get this thing turned around. So that's all I have to say about it. Don't just bring him in as a bridge coach, and then when you get the talent, you want to fire.
So is it going to be Love and Hip Hop with Aaron Glenn and Aaron Rodgers?
I'm going to just be real. I've seen Aaron Glenn on Hard Knocks. And he doesn't strike me.
No, he is his own man.
He doesn't strike me as a how we say down south. He ain't no joke. He ain't tolerating that. Robert Solomon is a more softer touch type of guy, and he's more of a player. He's more of a, he kind of a pat on the back type of guy. Aaron Glenn more of a kick in the pants, and that's one guy who I don't see. Although the players loved him, and you know that on the defensive side of the ball in Detroit, players loved him. They always said that they loved Aaron Glenn, and he was able to talk to a lot of players about personal issues, things of that nature. But if you really look at Aaron Glenn and how he carries himself, he ain't tolerating that. He ain't no joke. And we understand because guess what? He was an all-pro as well. So guess what? He's not tolerating that. He's not one of these run-of-the-mill guys that hasn't been around the NFL. He's played, and he was that dude at one point. He was one of the best corners, arguably, you probably ever want to see. So, yeah, there's certain stuff that you can get away with certain coaches. I don't think that's going to fly with Aaron Glenn. You pushing him on the sideline, saying them little nuances that you did with Robert Solomon, and not to mention what you did with Matt LaFleur. Yeah, I don't think Aaron Glenn's going to tolerate that. I think he's too strong-minded in order to deal with that. Yeah, no, I don't think that's going to happen.
But here's the thing, Champ. Yeah. Aaron Rodgers, unfortunately for the Jets, he's still going to stick around because, again, the Jets, they don't have a good enough position to get themselves any of these quarterbacks. I mean, Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward. I mean, I don't know if they're going to get Quinn Ewers. Maybe. But Aaron Rodgers, it appears to me, it's his job to lose. So I know Aaron Glenn, as you mentioned, he's his own man, and he's not going to tolerate any nonsense. But you're going to have to deal with Aaron. And look, I think it's a plus for the defensive side to have him with a Quentin Williams, to have him with a Sauce Gardner. They have talent. Let's not pretend or act as if the Jets don't have talent.
Yeah.
They are loaded with talent. What they need is structure. And it's going to be hard for Aaron Rodgers to work with Aaron Glenn because Aaron Rodgers is his own person. Yeah, I mean, again, he does certain things that we don't necessarily like to do. We don't necessarily like, in terms of from a leadership standpoint. And I think if it were a different quarterback, I believe that the Jets would have a better position to succeed and win. Because, look, we said this with Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers or Kirk Cousins. We rather have Kirk Cousins. Again, not to say that Kirk Cousins is a better quarterback than Aaron Rodgers, but Kirk Cousins is a leader. Kirk Cousins will say and do all the right things. Aaron doesn't strike me as that. Aloof, condescending. We know that he's going to be on Pat McAfee's show. We know that he's going to say a lot of things. and he's gonna get his money, gonna get his ratings. He's gonna get whatever he wants. But the problem is that's what you're gonna have to deal with if you're Aaron Glenn. I mean, it's easy when you were dealing in Detroit. Now you're in New York. Yes, you're back in an organization which you used to play for, but again, you got to deal with that quarterback though. So it's going to be interesting to see how he works out. But I think Aaron Glenn, the players will have respect for him because I think he's the type of person that will get into the players' ears, get their attention. He won't tolerate any nonsense. If you're going to come play hard. But how is he and Aaron Rodgers, how are they going to work? That's the thing, because you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Look, I'll say this. I think their best out is to take Jackson Dart in the second round, because I think that's where he's going to fall. You might want to just look at Jackson Dart. I'm not finna bring. And I understand that Aaron Glenn is familiar with the organization, but he has to understand this. Leon Hess, God bless his soul, is a completely different owner than Woody Johnson. Let me say that again. Leon Hess is a completely different owner than Woody Johnson. Woody Johnson actually took advice from his son about Madden ratings.
And we saw what happened with Jared Judy the year that he had.
And he made the Pro Bowl. So, and I understand people are going to say, well, the Pro Bowl doesn't mean much. No, it means a lot. Because guess what? When you make those Pro Bowls, that adds on what you can do for your contract. So if it didn't mean that, people wouldn't be hell-bent to make it. So I'm just going to be very, very honest with you. If you're smart, get rid of Aaron Rodgers, get you a new quarterback, or, give George Travis a try. Give him a try. But do something, because this is not working.
You want to come play for the Jets? They could offer. They could offer you something.
I would never go to New York. No, sir. That's way too much. There's way too much noise and way too much. No, I'm good. That's too much. No
drama.
But too much drama, and then, like I said, it's too much. I mean, with the Giants, they're gonna have some futile years, but at least they're committed to winning. I just don't sometimes see the same things that I see. I just don't. The Jets have always been, they high one year and then the very next it's like, okay. And they haven't had a true franchise quarterback since Joe Namath. And every guy who they've brought in order to be a quarterback, they're succeeding somewhere else. And then Todd Bowles, I go back to that. He succeeded. You fired Todd Bowles. He succeeded down there in Tampa Bay. Won a playoff game just last year.
Mm-hmm.
So although he's familiar with this organization, like we say down south, you might know these dudes, but these ain't the same dudes that you're coming back around. Leon Hess is not Woody Johnson. Leon Hess was one hell of an owner. And Bill Parcells loved working with him. But the thing is, that is not the same. It's like, like I said, when you have your son telling you not to trade for a receiver like a Jared Judy, who could have added to what you already have. Can you imagine Jared Judy with that offense? You already had Garrett Wilson. You already had Devontae Adams. You add him, three-headed monster right off the rip. But you're basing this on Madden ratings.
But and here's the thing. They got to be careful because, again, who knows? Garrett Wilson probably wants out of New York. Because, again, if he wants to be a number one and he wants to win, you really think he wants to stick with the New York Jets being the number two while Devontae is there? No, he probably wants out, which I don't blame him.
If I'm winning, I will settle for being number two. If I'm winning.
But when I'm
losing, I got to deal with a bunch of drama from the quarterback, him acting like he Kim Kardashian, and you got to worry about the owner not trading. We in the news every day for all the wrong reasons. Of course, you want to get the hell out of there. It's like an animal house around there. You got to get away from around there. But if you bring in somebody, you on the right track by bringing in Aaron Glenn. You get us an offensive line, and you get us a competent quarterback, one that is not gonna be disruptive to the team. Addition by subtraction works. If you don't believe that, look at the Buffalo Bills.
Mm-hmm.
They got Stephon Diggs behind right up out of that door, walked them to the Texans and say, there you go, you have it. And guess what? They're in the AFC Championship right now. Addition by subtraction works perfectly. It works in everyday life. And we'll leave it at that. Addition by subtraction works. So if you get the problems out of there while you still have this talented core, Aaron Rodgers is more of a liability than he is an asset. He's not 2012 Aaron Rodgers anymore. Get him out of there. Let's go. Now, get you a quarterback, get you some hogs, and let's go out there and win. You already got receivers. You already got running backs. You already have cornerbacks. You already have the defensive line and your linebackers. The only thing you're missing is some hogs and quarterback. So guess what? And the only team you have to worry about is Buffalo for right now, at least. At least for right now. Because Mike Vrabel, I believe he's going to be a hell of a fire coach, and he's going to bring that team and the Patriots up. I think he's determined to do that. But the only team you have to really, really worry about is Buffalo. So guess what? With the talent you got on this team, you need a quarterback and some hogs at the offensive line position, and you'll be okay. But you got to get Aaron Rodgers up out of there. He's a cancer to that team. He's been a cancer. He ran off Mike McCarthy. The minute Matt LaFleur came in, he had problems with him, got Robert Salem fired. How much evidence do you need that somebody's a problem?
Because they still love Aaron, and they still feel like Aaron is good enough for them to win. But here's the thing. If he were the Aaron Rodgers of 2011 or 2014 or the year where he helped the Packers win the Super Bowl, that's understandable. But you're not winning. Your play has regressed. And furthermore, you becoming more of a problem than you already were. And we already knew all these things about Aaron Rodgers and his leadership, champ, even when he was at an elite level. Shannon Sharp has said it. Greg Jennings, Jermichael Finley, Donald Driver. People have called out Aaron Rodgers for his leadership. So this is nothing new. The reason why you're paying attention to it now is because he's losing and the team and he's regressed. That's the only reason why you're paying attention to it. Because if you're not, then how come you didn't pay attention to it back then?
Because he was winning MVP and he was winning games. But
exactly. Production intolerance. And we talk about this with Mike Tomlin a lot. He's a player's coach, and we respect Mike Tomlin. But boy, does he allow players to get away with some things. It's Antonio Holmes, Antonio Brown, Claypool, now with George Pickens, he's caused this. So at some point in time, you're gonna have to say enough's enough.
There's a difference between being a player's coach and being an enabler.
That's true. That is true. But fellas, last two topics before we wrap up the show. The two Bryans. I said this last week, and thank you for Champ for posting the video. Favorite Brian Pillman moment. I'm going to go first. Damn it, I'm going to say it. When Austin invaded his home in Cincinnati, Ohio, and in the gun video. I'm sorry. I love it. As controversial as that was iconic. I watched Dark Side of the Ring. Brian Pillman was great as a heel. His promos, ECW. Remember the one when he was fighting the pencil? And then on top of that, him with the cooking stuff. And then when the guy was about to punch him, but in order to avoid the guy punching him, he had to hold the baby. Brian Pillman, I mean, some of the things that he was doing, his antics, he and Steve with the Hollywood Blondes. I mean, he was so fun and so entertaining as a heel, man. I love that about him. He was provocative. He would get up in your face. And also, to Steve's point, he would read like a thesaurus or a dictionary to come up with some words for promos. And I just love that about Brian Pillman, man. He was all up in your face. But ECW Brian Pillman, though. ECW Brian Pillman. There's the one incident with him and Joey Styles in the ring. I cannot go any further what he was about to do. I think you know exactly what I'm referring to, champ. I can't go into the specific details. But boy, Brian Pillman as a heel, he was fun, man. He and Steve, and also too when he joined the Hart Foundation as well. So I gotta give big ups to Brian Pillman. I'll let you go, champ.
Funny segment, but it's kind of like this was the beginning of the Attitude Era going too far. Remember when he beat Goldust in that match and got the services of Marlena? So that was a very interesting turn of events. I mean, especially with all of the vignettes. I'm like, what the hell? As a child, I was like, are they allowed to do that on TV? But that was a hoot. And I'm like, good God. I mean, it was crazy. Funny thing about him and Steve Austin teaming up, that was not supposed to happen.
No, Steve didn't like the idea. Nothing against Brian, but he never liked the idea.
No. And plus, Steve was supposed to be getting a run at the World Heavyweight Championship. He was supposed to work with Harley. They were supposed to start him off working with Harley Race. And then he came into WCW one day. He's like, hey, man, what do you want our tag team? They'd be like, what tag team? I'm not being a tag team. I'm working with Harley Race. But, they put him on the back burner. So, but the Hollywood Blondes was good. They won the tag team championships. They eventually lost it against Arn Anderson, but and company. But that was a good tag team. Brian Pillman and in the Hart Foundation, that was real good. But one thing that people don't like to acknowledge, though, because it was such a revolving door at a certain point, is he was one of the members of the Horsemen.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of the members of the Four Horsemen, and I never forget they had an incident with him and Arn Anderson. He was doing an interview with somebody, and he just paintbrushed the crap out of Brian Pillman. I said, I told you to stop talking. And so that was another moment, but I think the biggest moment was him joining the Hart Foundation, number one. Number two, that segment with Steve Austin. And, that feud between him and Goldust, for the services of Marlena. I think that was a good one as well. Flying Brian, going too soon. Rest in peace. I wish he could have had a World Heavyweight title run. Played for the Cincinnati Bengals. Yes, he did.
Coach Kim Wood, he encouraged him to go to Canada to learn from the Hart family.
Yes, he did. And he actually won an award when he played for the Canadian Football League as well.
Yes, he did.
So, and not to mention the position he played, you wouldn't suspect that from a guy. He played nose tackle. So,
his early days, he was a big dude.
Yeah, he was nose tackle. So he's a big dude. So, just like Lex Luger. Lex Luger played nose tackle for the University of Miami. But Brian Pillman gone too soon. I never forget, shout out to the great the colorful Jim Cornette. I don't know if you ever heard the story that he wanted Brian Pillman in order to get his title run. They wanted him to hit him with the tennis racket a certain way, but Ole Anderson renounced it because he said, well, that makes Brian Pillman look weak.
I think I once you mentioned tennis racket, I kind of get the sense because I've seen Jim Cornette with them damn tennis rackets.
Yeah, they was gonna hit him in a tennis racket a certain way around the facial area.
Yeah,
and work an injury angle in order to get him over so he can finally get a title run. But Ole Anderson squashed it and said, well, that makes him look weak. But that was one. You need to check out that interview. I know you like Jim Cornette, but you need to check out that interview. But
I will.
I hate that he did not get a world title run. I hate that he was taken from us too soon. And
35 years old.
35 years old. I'm only 37, so I was, hey, that just goes to show you every day's a gift. Brian Pillman was very entertaining, man. Flying Brian, man. I love when he was Flying Brian.
The loose cannon.
Yes, because he was. People don't give him credit for how much high flying that he could do. When he was Flying Brian, he was great.
Yes.
So I hate that we have to look back on these memories when it comes to a lot of the wrestlers, and we have to cherry pick. Because we got just enough, but not nearly as much as we could have. But
absolutely gone way too soon, though.
Yeah, but big ups to his son. I think his son's a wrestler now.
Yes, Brian Pillman Jr., AEW.
Yeah. Yes, he is. So big ups to him. And look, that family legacy lives on. And big ups to the Hearts because they trained him properly. And I just wish we could have got a little bit more. When you think about guys like Flying Brian, Magnum TA, you think about the title runs that they could have had and how big they could have been. But unfortunately, their career got short, or in the case of Brian Pillman, he got taken away from us, due to certain things. But I liked him. He was very entertaining, and you could not fake a voice like that.
Yeah,
you could not fake a voice.
It's interesting, Champ, because he had to do it, and he had a raspy voice.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go back and if you read some of his history, I mean, I think he had like heart problems, stuff like that, and was still able to cut promos. That tells you a lot of determination in Brian Pillman. And the thing I loved about Brian Pillman, I don't know if you watched The Dark Side of the Ring, the way he was able to negotiate deals with WC.
He was smart. Hey, when you talk about a guy that's saying you're not gonna mess me over. Yeah, I think he did that without an agent too, didn't
he?
Yeah, he did that without an agent. So,
stroke of genius.
Yes, that's genius. Whatever you can deal with these big wigs about your contracts and stuff like that. That says about how much business savvy you do have. And he negotiated his deal with the WWE while he was hurt.
Didn't he also do that with WCW with Bischoff?
Yeah, while he was hurt. You remember he broke his leg.
Yeah. But I mean, hell, he would have one hell of a career as an accountant or something. I mean, boy, the way that he was negotiating them deals, man. BRF.
Speaking of underrated talent, Brian Pillman was definitely an underrated talent. Honestly, though, yeah, I mean, I think everybody, when you think about favorite Brian Pillman moment, it's going to go back to that Monday Night Raw. When Austin 316 meets Pillman, you know the rest he said. Yeah, that was very that segment was was like definitely one of the easily at the time, being my age and getting into wrestling, well, particularly the WWF at the time, that segment just had your eyes like it's like take it back. It's like, okay, I wasn't expecting this. I'm just not getting into it at a young age. I'm not expecting Brian Pillman to do that, but it stands out. I'll tell you that much because, man, people still talk about that. Like even after that incident, like it's crazy. Lord, I'm trying. For me, yeah, just for me though, like outside of that one, he didn't have like too many moments. He didn't have too many moments that kind of like, that kind of like captured your eye. But what he did was just like I mean, really the Hollywood Blonde, just him and Steve Austin heck of a team. Heck of a team. Yeah, I think I'll say for this one, I don't think another Brian Pillman moment really stands out for me more than just like what Champ said when Stone Cold invaded that house, but it was the interview before Austin got there where
Mm-hmm.
he basically talked about what he was going to do, and that moment was just great because Austin got in the house and he had it pointing at him, and the network was like, "Yeah, no shutdown. We're gonna take you off right now." So yeah, it was like definitely one of the as crazy as it sounds, it's definitely one of those images you think about when you're looking at like the beginning of the Attitude Era. Brian Pillman and Stone Cold Steve Austin was definitely one of those rivalries that helped usher in what the Attitude Era ultimately became.
All right. Stay tuned for next week for our favorite wrestling moment because next week, favorite Stephanie McMahon moment.
Ooh,
Mm.
I like that.
Yep. Favorite Stephanie McMahon moment. And then, fellas, last but not least, the great Brian McKnight. BRF, you go first.
Favorite Brian McKnight track? I got a few. Like, definitely one of the more, if he's not the most underrated R&B male R&B singer of our generation, he's definitely one of them. Um, as far as like the big hits, everybody's gonna go to Back at One because that was like the big mainstream hit that he had, which was a really really good song. My favorite Brian McKnight song is probably Anytime.
Yes.
It's Anytime because that was just like you could just like you could hear the pain in his voice singing that song. Want this woman to come back to him. He feels like, yeah, okay, I might not have been good as I could have been, but just come back. I'll show you what I can do. And just that song was just like, if I'm ever just you could just hear it. You like just it was just a well put together song, and I love it. That like Brian McKnight's got a few songs honestly that still travels and still does well. He's a like I said if he's not the most underrated male R&B singer of our generation, he's up there. He's like easily up there as far as most underrated. And like you don't like now you look back at a lot of his songs and you listen to his you listen to songs like another one the only one for me. That was another good one. That was another good one as well. So yeah, man, yeah. Brian McKnight's he's definitely one of my favorites, and he's definitely very very underrated. But yeah. For me it's Anytime. Just that's just if you got like one favorite like that for me with Brian McKnight, that for me is definitely it's my favorite song. I love the beat. I love the pacing of the song. Just his voice, like come on man, I ain't gonna lie, like I said, probably definitely and also one of the best voices of our generation as well. You can't man, you can't. Brian McKnight's just one of those. He's just one of those talents that's like now we sit back and we look at a lot of his music and we're like, yeah, we didn't really like. It was like we didn't really appreciate him at first, but it's like as the music kept coming and you just saw the talent, it's like, yeah, Brian McKnight, one of those ones. So yeah, for me though, it's Anytime.
Anytime for me, but another track though, Still in Love.
Yes.
Mm.
Especially when he goes, When the Eagles Forget How to Fly. That song, but Back at One. So I mean, with Brian McKnight, man, his singing. One of my other favorite Brian McKnight moments. Remember the Martin episode when Martin flew all the way to New York to propose to Gina, and then when Brian McKnight singing
Yeah.
that That would, I mean, go back and watch that Martin episode. I don't remember the name of it, but it was in season 2. Go watch that episode and listen to Brian McKnight singing. That was some good ones. Oh, and also there was one on the Steve Harvey show. Go check that one out as well. But Still in Love, Back at One, because the sound, the beats, how sweet the song is, especially with that angelic voice. Got to give Brian McKnight his due, man. Champ.
Oh man, One Last Cry.
Oh, nice.
One Last Cry. A funny story about that song. I joined this little group that we had, and we was trying to cut carbs. So we had this thing called One Last Fry. And we based it off. And we based it off that song. So we said One Last Fry. That was oh man. We're gonna call this the Dark Kirby show. I don't know. Jesus. That was bad. That's horrible. Man.
What did I say?
Hey, look, that's the reason why they call us the highlight of Friday nights.
Why did I let that man? Why did I let Dark Kirby come out my mouth, boy? That's what this episode gonna be now. Forever enshrined the Dark Kirby show.
Yeah, Biddle took over Kirby. Now we got the Dark Kirby show. But
the Black and Dark Vader. The Black and Dark Vader.
Oh man, I love the PSP, man. That's why you but hey, in all seriousness, man, One Last Cry. We all had that one breakup, and let's just be real. We all had that one breakup, and yeah, when you put on that song, you can hear it. It's just like One Last Cry in here. And not only that, losing family members or losing friends, One Last Cry pretty much hits home. And I gotta say One Last Cry. Back at One is always a good one, but One Last Cry was always, one that, especially when you are kind of going through it with a loved one, you going through it with in a relationship or something like that, and you just so happen to lose. And yeah, that's a song that kind of hits home. So One Last Cry has to be it for me because, and let's not forget, man, although it wasn't great, the track that he did with the late great Kobe Bryant, he did do a track with the late great Kobe Bryant. That was cool. For you to do a song with Brian McKnight back then is something special. So I gotta say One Last Cry. So that was great. And that's still one of my favorite Brian McKnight songs to this day. Back at One, all of those are good as well. So but for me, it's One Last Cry.
Excellent choice, fellas. And for next week on the Sports PSP Pod for music, favorite Mary J. Blige track.
I like that.
Yep.
I love that one.
Well, that's why Champ calls me the New Jersey genius, the mastermind. So I got to continue with that. But fellas, before we wrap up the show, any final words and let them know where to follow y'all at.
I'll kick it off. Well, seeing how the TikTok app ain't allowing for download anymore at the moment. I deleted the app off my phone, but because of the U.S. restrictions, I get it back. So we're not going to talk about the TikTok at the moment, but you can follow me at IG, Drell112285 at IG. You can follow me on my Twitter /X at Dre2285. You can also follow me. You can also follow me on my Facebook. I have a BRF Sports Facebook page that you can follow on there as well. and just definitely definitely always a pleasure to get on here. Definitely definitely one of the more hilarious episodes we've done in a while. Just forever immortalized and enshrined Dark Kirby as long as we exist with the Sports PSP pod. Just forever enshrined Dark Kirby. Just always remember that. But I do want to send another round of prayers and condolences out. And champ, you'll know this as well, being from Georgia. Today, if you were around the mid 2000 and you want to talk about the hip hop scene in Atlanta, DJ Unk was it.
Yeah.
Walk it out, two step, beating down your block. We lost DJ Unk today, so he was only 43 years old. So I want to send prayers and condolences to his family and also to fans and everybody down here in the southeast that supported DJ Unk. Because let me tell you something, music was always evolving and was going in different phases. And then when we started to kind of go back to like an Atlanta dance craze, when we were coming up with every dance in the book, and DJ Unk was one of those that kind of led the charge for that new generation of dance music down here in Georgia. So definitely definitely rest in peace to DJ Unk, and prayers and condolences to him and his family. We gonna continue beating your music. We're gonna continue grinding that music out because he's definitely underrated. He didn't have a whole catalog of hits, but the hits he made, they still bang and they still rock. So rest in peace to DJ On. And I gotta leave him with my slogan because a topic not thought about is a topic not thought about is a topic not talked about. It's always a pleasure getting on here, man, and I'm looking forward to more growth and more fun and more laughing, and we're gonna continue to do it. So shout out to you, PSP. Shout out to you, my brother Champ, and always a pleasure. Love y'all both, and we're gonna keep it rocking.
Please go follow BRF on IG, TikTok, and please go check them out on tomorrow night's podcast with the undisputed world champ. Champ, tell them where to follow you at, brother.
Again, always a privilege, a pleasure, and an honor to be on the Sports PSP podcast. Hey, Sports PSP, I appreciate you. Words can't describe that. I know it's repetitive, but a lot of only thing that we can probably say is thank you. And I think thank you is a very important thing because we always know that people don't have to do anything for you. No one has to do anything for you. No one owes you anything. And I think that's important to understand. When someone brings you on their platforms, when someone brings you along to other shows with them, when you have special shows that you do with each other, and when they come on your platform, that's a privilege, not a right. And never take that for granted for people who want to do something for you. So I thank you for that. And I thank you as well, BRF, for being a part of this as well, because, hey, you're the first person I came and got when I needed a partner. We needed a partner in the podcast. I was like, wait a minute, I don't have partners. Let me go find BRF. So thank you, BRF. Like I said, when you have great people around you, always keep them close. Always respect their boundaries. Always respect them. And I know all of you guys pretty much throughout the show, I'm the comic relief of the show, but understand this. These are my brothers. And I treat them as such. And we treat each other with respect, and we respect each other. And on that note, continue to respect each other, especially with things that are going on. And I want you to read between the lines when I say that. Respect each other, love each other, and make sure you stick together. Togetherness is what we need right now more than anything. So I want you all to take that and run with it. Togetherness. We don't need to be divided at this point. Too much things trying to divide us at this point. Check us out tomorrow on the Undisputed GOAT podcast. Pretty much a spinoff show of the Sports PSP podcast, if you want me to be honest with you. If you want me to be honest with you. But pretty much a spinoff show, but I digress. But join us tomorrow night. We'll be talking more in depth. We'll have the Pat McAfee of our show tomorrow. We'll have Flash. Everybody was talking about Flash. All my guys in the neighborhood was asking me, "Where's Flash? Where's Flash?" So he will be back tomorrow. We'll have our guy back tomorrow. So I enjoy doing this every single Friday night. The highlight of Friday nights, because it's a highlight. And like I said, I appreciate every time. And look, it's when people stop asking you to come on their podcast, do you have to be worried? I'm just going to be honest.
Yeah.
When people stop asking you to show up, that's when you know you done messed up. So, hey, don't burn your bridges. Keep your doors open and respect. Remember this. You never learn anything else from me. I know I joke a lot. Always remember the bare minimum is respect. And you need to respect everybody who you come across. No matter if it's the CEO or the frog on the ground. Make sure you respect everybody. And we need respect now more than ever.
Absolutely. Fellas, always a pleasure. Honor having y'all here on the Sports PSP pod. I know y'all gonna kill it on tomorrow's show. So y'all do well. If I have some time, hopefully I can stop by. We'll see what we can do. But always a pleasure having y'all on the Sports PSP pod. Thank y'all. And for everyone else, y'all know where to follow me at. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well as IG Sports PSP as well as TikTok Sports PSP3. Very happy that we still have TikTok back. Hey, content creators, capitalize on it because you never know it's going to be there that long. So you might as well capitalize it, continue to do videos, continue to make money, continue to do whatever it takes for you to hustle. Ain't nothing wrong with doing that. On another note, Sports PSP podcast almost at 66,000 subscribers. Very happy about that. Enjoy the rest of y'all weekend. Enjoy some good football. Enjoy some basketball or whatever it is y'all doing. Stay safe and